everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Avocado Games Cast. Today we're going to be talking all about how our gaming tastes have evolved over time. And on top of that, we're also going to give our impressions of the demo for Anthem, the upcoming looter shooter from BioWare. My name's Merve, and joining me, he's dressed to the nines for a performance of To Be or Not To Be. It's Science is Bad.
Hello.
He wants to know if they'll put Mrs. Metroid in the next Diddy cart. It's Wolfman Jew.
Hi, everyone.
He never saw it coming. Doot doot. It's Pulprobot.
Hi.
And finally, he thinks a javelin is something you ride, not something you throw. It's the Kappa.
What's up, guys?
So how y'all doing?
Good.
Good. Super Bowl Sunday, man. Where do you
Yeah.
get the pizza on order?
So it's the Rams versus the Patriots.
Yep. It's technically a game. We're a gaming podcast. We can.
Counts.
Game theory is important, and
Yeah.
sports games are part of that.
Did you guys ever? I think it was Penny Arcade a long time ago. Like explain football in terms of like an RPG,
Yeah.
where it was talking about like quarterbacks are wizards, the offensive linemen are your tanks, and then like the receivers and running backs are like your rogues and stuff. I thought it was a really interesting like comparison for people who might not have ever really gotten into football. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like a sports ball person. It's just I never got into football.
Yeah.
So like I used to watch a lot of hockey growing up in Canada, and I watched quite a bit of tennis because my parents were super into it. But football was never really like a huge thing for me. I've watched the Grey Cup a few times, you know, being Canadian.
Yeah.
And now I live in LA, so apparently I should be cheering for the Rams.
I don't even know if LA cares. It's like
Nobody's talking about it here. Like everybody I know here has not even mentioned the Super Bowl to me once. And then I looked it up a few days ago. Oh, who's playing in the Super Bowl? Oh, LA? Really?
Yeah.
Nobody here cheers for the Rams. They're all like,
Oh.
whatchamacallit, Clippers fans or whatever our other basketball team is.
Lakers.
Lakers. Yeah. That's the one. That's the one people actually care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody here also mentioned the Super Bowl, which is super weird because Poland is super big into. No, we have no idea.
Do y'all play hockey? Like, what sports? You guys
A little
into?
bit of hockey, a little bit, mostly soccer and volleyball. Soccer and volleyball.
I didn't even know that volleyball was a sport that people kind of like got into.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. So what I wanted to mention was that, moving gears from sports, although there's a bit of sports in this, there's a video game that I just completed recently called Pikuniku.
Oh.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a Japanese game, but it's not. It just has a weird Japanese name for some reason. So a little bit off-brand for me, apparently. It's
A little bit, just a tad.
just a smidge.
Just a smidge.
Like the other game playing right now is Kingdom Hearts. So
Ah, there we go.
like the first Kingdom Hearts,
Ugh.
the original Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
That might have been a mistake. Anyway, so Pikuniku is this like really bizarre, open worldish 2D puzzle platformer. I don't really know how to describe it. And
Kind of looks like Loco Roco from what I've seen, like the visual style of it. It's
yeah,
like
it's
really
got like this
colorful.
color form aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
And everything is very awkward about it. That's the way I describe it. It's a very awkward game. You move
Just like
in
my life.
kind of, yeah. You move in kind of like this lurching, weird
Bean?
gait. Yeah, it's like the character you play is just like a red oblong with two legs, and the legs
Stop
kind of like
describing my life. Jesus, you're following me around.
I mean, are you much wider than you are tall? 'Cause
I'm not sure if I would describe myself that way, but yeah, I saw a little bit of video of it, and it seems very like there's some good writing in it. Surprisingly, it's not only like cute platformer, but it's funny.
yeah, it's a very funny game. I'd say I don't know that the story works as a whole really, but there are jokes in there. and there's a lot of there's some good puzzle design in there, some interesting puzzles to solve, but also bizarre mini games. One of which, like a couple of which, are sports themed and involve like. Do you guys remember the old Flash slime games?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
Like you're talking about they were kind of like where you absorb into things and gain their powers and those ones.
Like,
No.
Google
I'm
Code?
talking about the ones where you're just like a semicircle with an eye, and you have to hit a ball into somebody
Yeah.
else's net.
Gotcha.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Those. Imagine that, but in HD.
I've actually
Cool.
got this game and I haven't checked it out yet, but yeah, it's on my list.
So what? How do you interact with the world? What do you do in this game?
So first to Kappa's point, it was free with Twitch Prime. That's why I ended up playing
Yep.
it.
Oh.
I don't think it's free anymore though. Sorry. And to answer your question, Science, basically what you do is your standard platformer stuff. You kind of jump around, clear obstacles, solve puzzles. But you also, there are boss battles and things like that. As for the actual mechanics, it's your pretty standard 2D platformer stuff. Except for it's kind of some of the challenges are borderline fumblecore, like Octodadish almost.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, and it has that very awkward kind of carnival circus music in the background, which kind of complements the
That's nice.
fumblecoriness of it all.
I always kind of think about that and like think if it's like worth the effort. Like, is it fun? Like the fumbling with the puzzles and traversal. Is it as fun as it looks fun sometimes? That's my question.
Okay, so I actually don't have a problem with fumblecore in principle, but that kind of has to be the point of the game, and I don't think the fumbling is the point of this particular game, and I think it actually works to this game's detriment. Like some of the boss battles and a couple of the more fumbly challenges are the most frustrating parts of the game, and they're just not fun.
Okay.
And when
So
it
there's
sticks
physics involved, yeah?
when it sticks
okay.
to more standard puzzle platform challenges, I think that's where it shines.
Okay.
So yeah, it's something I'd give a qualified recommendation to. If you got it for free with Twitch Prime, then
Then play it.
then play it because
Yeah.
it's fun.
I think it's a good idea to point out too that Twitch Prime has been throwing out the free games monthly now. I mean, it's just been I've got like a library on Twitch, and yeah, it's all been for free. If you like weird indies, especially, I mean, they are the hotbed. I think they did a whole where you and I probably got that one is from that Devolver pack, right?
Yeah, so I've got like Hotline Miami, and I never even paid for it.
Yeah.
Or like Hyperlight Drifter and a bunch of other games.
There's some real sleeper hits in there too. Shadow Tactics.
yeah.
Shogun is fantastic. If you've
That's
never
a
played
good
that.
game.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like I hadn't even. I wanted to get Pikuniku anyway, and I was about to buy it for Switch, and then I realized it was free with Twitch Prime that month, and so I downloaded the Twitch Prime client, and all of a sudden they're just like, "Oh yeah, you have 14 free games. Have fun."
Yeah. Exactly.
Nice.
So yeah, now I have a bunch of indies to play anytime I get bored. So that's what I've been playing. Pulp, what have you been playing?
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, nice. How's that been going?
Hot takes incoming.
Sure.
Yeah.
Lay it on us. Come
Yeah.
on.
Okay, I will say it is a very pretty game. It's one of the most beautiful looking games I've seen. It is extremely detailed. It's very nice looking. It plays like hot garbage, drowning in sewage.
Oh, man, that is the Rockstar formula right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know what? If it worked in 1999, it can work just as well here. No changes.
You know what? If I want my horse to go right, I don't want to have to walk in a circle to go 90 degrees. I want to be able to go 90 degrees.
Yeah, realistic horse physics were probably a mistake.
Oh my God, is Red Dead Redemption 2 a fumblecore game? Did we just figure something out?
Sure seems like it.
Do you have to is it Clop? Do you have to like control the limbs of the horse individually?
Yes. Or, I have no idea. Probably.
It might have actually controlled better if it did that.
If you think about it, life is Fumblecore, so they're just simulating that. So
Red-
Yeah,
Red-
I don't just press a button to walk forward. I have to move my legs individually.
I have to awkwardly move my weird red blobby body that's wider than it is taller, and just kind of awkwardly shuffle to the right.
Red Dead Redemption 2 became a sequel to Grow Home so fast nobody noticed.
Yeah.
I feel like, I hear what you're saying about it, and I kind of agree that to me it's more of like a pirate simulator, or not pirate, a Western simulator that I just want to go mess around in than a game at this point. Like I get in and I play for 2 or 3 hours, but I don't do anything with the story or what. I mean, I just go around and do the little weird events or hunt or fish or, you know what I mean? So it's a weird game to me. Like I like it. I don't know if I'll ever beat it, and I mean like ever beat it, which is weird to say. Yeah,
I expressed my feelings on Red Dead. I don't know, 2 episodes back. I just wish this game was a different game a little bit. It's so pretty and it's so big and vast and there's so much to do. I just don't like kind of the way the mechanics interact, and a lot of the controls are kind of, I don't know, annoying me a little bit. So
It's a weird game design. It's got the whole, I want you to be able to do anything in the open world, but when you do a mission, it's very Naughty Dog-esque and very cinematic, and they want you to like feel like it's a movie, but then they're like, oh, well, you're not doing that. You can do whatever you want, but also don't forget you have to do all this other stuff just to fucking walk.
Yeah, and where it really kind of becomes apparent is like when you're doing missions, and it's like the only way they can really figure out difficulty is by throwing thousands of guys at you. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, like I'm fighting this gang, but for some reason there's 80 of them. That's a small army.
Yeah, you just killed a small town entirely.
Your gang is like 15 people, and their gang is like thousands. That shouldn't be like that.
Rob this train, there's the entire army of the state of Texas on it, but you can rob it.
Yeah.
One rifle.
I feel like this isn't really maybe a problem central to Red Dead Redemption, but I do think this is kind of the issue of when you make action games that are set in the real world, is because you really can't have like people who can like jump super high or whatever, or have all kinds of crazy powers. So so your group of enemies are just like pistol guy, shotgun guy, rifle guy.
Yeah, I guess you could have also like turrets, and you could have like all kinds of different stuff, but that would require a lot of time and effort.
This game that took 10 years doesn't have.
It does, but like it has that they invested a lot in like believability of the world, like to make
Horse
it more
testicles.
tangible. Yes, horse testicles and horse testicle physics and all of that, and it looks very good. The horse testicles, I mean, but overall, like I found like the combat situations and like the moment-to-moment action to be like a kind of a chore and samey, and they didn't much focus on like trying to figure out what to do with the basic combat, because that's mostly how you interact with the game. Yeah, there's a ton of like alternate stuff, like you can fish and play poker and all that, but mostly what you do in the game is shoot people, and that's just kind of, I don't know, doesn't.
One of our early podcasts, I think me and Merve had one where we were talking about like how does this game have you interact with the world? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And almost all of Red Dead Redemption's, like it does let you greet strangers and tip your hat and stuff, but almost everything is I either rob them or I shoot them. Like that's how you interact with almost everybody in the world.
Man,
it's a very limited set of verbs, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I get that because
whenever I wanted to greet a stranger, I took out my gun by accident because both are on the fucking triggers, and people start shooting me because apparently I'm a dick. God damn it!
If Red Dead really,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that if Red Dead really, really wanted to capture the Western aesthetic, they should have had a Stardew Valley system where you can build up your own homestead, and then the bad guy comes in and burns it down midway through the game.
I mean, they do
Yeah,
let you build
Just
up
like the
your
War of
camp.
1812.
They could do a lot more with the camp. Like, why don't you guys decide to make your own town? Or, I mean, I know I'm talking about a totally different game than what Red Dead is, but like, their aim for that game literally was just to follow the format that all Rockstar games seem to have. Well, I guess not fully.
I can just imagine playing Red Dead as Stardew Valley. You're just screaming at Marston. Marston, have you planted those turnips yet? And
It's
then it
Sunday.
would be
You got to
great.
get into town to talk to Janie.
Love it. I would play that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to at the end of the day is what Kappa pointed out, that you have a limited set of ways to interact with the world, and that kind of restricts, like it operates at different levels of realism, right? Everything looks really real and seems to indicate that sort of freedom. When it comes down to interacting with people, there's very little you can do. And also what Pulp pointed out, that the degree of freedom you have on a mission versus in the open world stuff is completely different. Like, it just funnels you down a certain way on a mission. You have to kind of psychically figure out what the game designers want you to do. It's very different from the open world, which supports more emergent gameplay.
That's a great point by Pulp, honestly. I mean, it's why I think I'm not playing the missions, because there's only one way to go forward, and it's the way they want you to, and it's ride your horse to here, shoot these 50 guys, and somehow you win.
You know what? To clean your horse, because you need to do that for some stupid reason. Oh, if you don't clean your horse, it will actually tire out in like 10 minutes. So ride through every stream you see just so it stays clean.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
You
and
know
then
what? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say the other important part of Red Dead Redemption, which is where you go through a mission by going on a 10-minute walk with a person, and they talk to you about libertarianism, and then you die. And then when you go on the walk again, they give you a different conversation about libertarianism.
And then you die again.
Yes,
So.
and then they go to the first one. I actually did like the fact that at least some of those missions did plan for you to die.
Oh yeah, that's weird, but I got an idea. Let's just get rid of goddamn missions in open world games. Like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild did it the right way. Like just like have those kind of questy things maybe, and take note of open world RPGs more. And I don't like going to a cinematic, talking to some guy, and then going into like a scripted event where I mow down people on like a turret sequence and then go back to open world gameplay. I hate that.
I think a lot of the reason why Zelda got away with that is the fact that because all the innovation, or not all the innovation, but a lot of it just comes in, or all the effort comes in how you interact with the world.
And
like
that's
you can
cool.
climb X, you can swim over X or whatever. And so
Yeah.
because of that, like all of the goals, or most of the goals, are just like get to X, and you just have to use whatever tools the world has.
Yeah, but that's why the star of the show is the world. In an open world game, that's important. And here, I think like the star of the show is like all over the place. Is it the action? Is it the main character? Is it the story? Is it like the open world?
It's the horse balls.
Yeah, horse
It's
balls.
the testicles.
Did
No,
you,
I just don't know.
Has anybody tried Far Cry 5?
Yes.
Far Cry. So
What'd you
here's
think?
I enjoyed it, but kind of like what we're talking about, it's got a great open world, but it literally can't think of a way to shoehorn in the story, right? So like literally every, I don't know, 20 minutes of playing that game, you get kidnapped. Like you get knocked out and kidnapped. I'm serious.
fantastic.
Like that's how it tells you the story. It's like you're going around, they're like, uh-oh, the cult finally knows where you are. And it's like, I've been killing these guys by the truckload for hours, but now they secretly know where I am. And they hit you with a dart and they knock you out, and then you wake up and it's okay, now it's story time. But then you escape, and then 10 minutes later some guy comes up from behind you and hits you with the butt of his gun, and you wake up and now it's story. It's the most jarring example of
Why
storytelling.
don't they kill you? That's what I...
Well, that's the thing. And then so the other thing about it is if you ever played like any of the latest Call of Duty games, they have the same problem. They can't tell the story without knocking out your main character and incapacitating you to tell you the story, because it doesn't make sense that I've been killing these guys,
I love the image of like somebody knocking you out, you waking up, and somebody giving you a big PowerPoint presentation.
I mean,
of what's
that's
happening.
exactly what happens.
Listen, this is our plan to take over the world. Next slide, please. Gem, next slide.
I mean, that's basically the plot. That one scene in Half-Life 2 where you get strapped inside that like sardine container and the bad guy tells you about his plans.
No.
Yeah.
In Far Cry 5, when you wake up, you don't get a PowerPoint presentation. You get a motivational speech from like the guy that rents out the hotel in a local town to give a motivational speech. That level of charisma is just this guy going,
Awesome.
But no, it's really like it becomes really like grating after like the 10th time, and you're like, look, not only does my guy have really bad head trauma, but by this point, like you're probably just talking like mush to him. But at the same time, like if that's the only way you can tell your story is by taking away the player's control, I think it's weird. I think it's not really the way to go with it. I mean, you got to figure out, like you guys are saying, a better way to tell your story in the open world.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not even anti-cutscene. It's just, like, you have to tell your story in a way that doesn't conflict with what the game is trying to do or what your character's power is. Like, I hate to bring up the term, but it's ludonarratively dissonant, right? That my character gets knocked out by some dude, even though he's, like, friggin' Rambo in every other scene.
I just don't like story icons on my map. I just don't like having like a big S on my map for whatever, Stanley or something. And I know I have to go there to Stanley and talk with Stanley. And I don't want to go there to talk with Stanley because I know I'll have to go on a 15-minute mission and it's going to be a bunch of stuff. And I don't know. I just want to interact with the world. I don't want to go to Stanley. Nobody wants to go to Stanley. God, I hate those icons. I have 4 icons on a map, and I never want to go to any of them ever in those games.
It gets worse when at least Rockstar kind of limits it, where it gets especially bad as the Ubisoft maps. That are just the maps are made out of icons, and you basically just have to do them just so that you can actually see the map at all.
Yeah, if you zoom in actually very close, it's all icons. It's just icons. There's nothing else there.
That's how I feel whenever I fire up an Ass Creed game. I'm just like, oh lord.
Yeah.
I'm never going to interact with 90% of these icons.
Yeah.
So, Wolf, what have you been playing?
Typically, as I think happens on here, I've been playing a few things. I've been enjoying Piranha Plant and Super Smash Brothers.
Nice.
I've finally gotten away from Resident Evil 6 for an article, which is a game that probably can best be described as having a sequence in which you jump from one helicopter to another helicopter and then hold up miniguns and blow up about 15 other helicopters.
Yeah, that game.
You make it sound awesome, but I know that game isn't awesome.
No, that game is straight up garbage.
There's a lot of helicopters in this game, but I really want to talk about the thing that I've actually been putting a lot of effort into lately, which is Xenoblade Chronicles.
The first one?
Yes, the first one. The 2010 Wii JRPG that's also a crazy giant sandbox game.
Yeah, that's a fun game.
It is. Yeah. It's a weird beast. Like I said, it's a JRPG game, but it's also a game that's inspired by World of Warcraft, and it also uses these very large... It's not a fully open world game, but it just has these massive sandboxes that I'm legitimately amazed that they were able to pull this off on a console as underpowered as the Wii was.
Yeah, and it looks pretty good still.
Yeah, it looks very good. It's got very strong art direction, except for the character designs, which are pretty much all over-designed.
It gets worse in the sequel.
Actually. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it goes to greater extremes with even more gorgeous worlds, but even worse character designs. Oh, dear Lord. The character designs. But I liked XC2. Anyway.
I've actually got XP2 for a present recently, so when I finish XC1, I'm excited.
Okay.
Back. Yeah, and... I also played a bit of Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is not so great, but that'll probably be for another time. So basically, should I go in story or gameplay, or what do you think?
Whatever you wanna.
Whatever makes you happy.
I really like the setting of the game.
Yeah. I guess then I'll do... Yeah, I think that's a good... So basically, the premise of this game is it's essentially takes place in a world where all of the entire Earth or the entire planet that this game takes place on is an endless sea except for two giants or the corpses of these two titans called the Bionis and the Mechonis. And one is sort of a creature of biological life where it has flora and fauna and eventually several sentient races. And the other is the Mechonis, which is this big mechanized machine god with this giant sword. And it's a sword so large that it's basically like the size of LA.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So everyone is living on these two titans. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a metaphor for LA somehow.
It kind of is, yeah. Well, I mean, Xenoblade Chronicles X did have New Los Angeles,
Nice.
There you go.
which had a hilarious rap song for its overworld theme.
Yeah, I heard the soundtrack to that game is a little weird, but anyway.
Yeah, it's goofy while like Xenoblade soundtrack is just this absolutely gorgeous thing.
Oh yeah, it's very very pretty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have you been enjoying the World of Warcraft-esque gameplay in Xenoblade 1?
I actually like it. I like the fact. For me, the thing is like I'm not a big JRPG guy. Like I like the ones that Nintendo makes for the most part. Like I like Paper Mario and Pokemon and Earthbound. But I think one of the things that those are good at is they're fairly simple, or not necessarily simple, but like easy to understand. And one of the things I like about Xenoblade is for the most part, it's got a lot of systems, but they all kind of orbit around the same idea. So basically, you've got a party of up to 7 characters. That's the whole group, just like Chrono Trigger, or just like Mass Effect 1. You basically you can choose 3 of them to go out at a time, and you choose who, like the person who's in the lead, who you play. And everyone basically goes around an enemy or a group of enemies, and they basically auto attack them every few seconds. But alongside that, you've got special moves called arts. But the gimmick is that all the arts have different abilities, and so the goal of fighting is to chain them together. So basically, like there's one move that called break. And a lot of characters have this, like the pink arts are called break, where they kind of cause an enemy to stagger a little bit. It doesn't affect their how they fight, but then when they're in a break, someone can use an attack called topple, which makes them knock to the ground, so they can't attack you for a few seconds. And then while they're on that, someone can also use a daze art to then make them kind of dizzy and unable to attack for a few more seconds. So basically the idea is that you kind of organize the characters in a way that you're kind of chaining these abilities together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm assuming that's been retained in 2.
In 2, yeah, except for instead of days, after toppling, you throw them up into the air and then you smash them down.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, it looks really funny, especially when like a tiny person throws like some gigantic monster up into the air and then smashes them to the ground. But it's the same basic flow, and I think they even put even more emphasis on combos in XC2.
Yeah.
So like the setting is cool, the mechanics are pretty cool, but are you enjoying the story?
I am actually. I'm not the voice acting I'm kind of differ on. I like it, but I'm not sure if I'm basically like it kind of I'm overrating it because it's an all British cast. And it's really fun when one of the main villains for like the first half of the game is this giant like Cockney robot with huge claws.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, because Nintendo Europe does the localization for the Xenoblade games for whatever reason.
Actually, that's because Nintendo of America had no interest in localizing Xenoblade 1 or Xenoblade 1.
Yeah.
So what happened is there was a big fan campaign, and eventually Nintendo of Britain...
Oh yeah, Operation Rainfall.
Yes, Operation Rainfall, to get the last story and Pandora's Tower also. So basically, Nintendo of America had no interest in localizing Xenoblade Chronicles, probably because it's this big JRPG that's got all kinds of crazy mechanics and over-designed characters, and it's like 150 hours long or something, and I'm only hitting the 100-hour mark.
Yeah.
Only.
By XC2, just to compare to XC2, that took me, I think, something like 120 hours, and it was still teaching me new mechanics at the 90-hour mark.
Oh my god.
Okay. I'm a little worried now.
Rockstar game?
But that's still better than the Mario and Luigi games.
Sure. No,
Um,
it does sound a little bit like also Final Fantasy games, like not the old ones, but like 10
Yeah.
had like no 12, sorry, 13.
it's a-
Jesus.
Yeah, it's apparently got like apparently it's similar to 12 in some ways, Xenoblade.
Oh yeah,
Like, well,
yeah. But your companions don't have any like logic that you can assign to them, right? It's just like
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened though is that Nintendo of America didn't want to localize it, so Nintendo of UK basically was just like, we're gonna step in and make this our project and kind of like give us our own kind of identity, and it actually sold pretty well in the US for an RPG anyway.
Yeah, just short of 1 million copies overall.
Yeah, it got
worldwide
really
sales.
good reviews, so yeah.
And
that helped.
yeah, and since then this weird like third unrelated spin-off of Xenogears has managed to actually become like within less than a decade it's gotten three major installments.
It's weird that it all came from Xenogears. That game is
Yeah.
totally different than all of what everything else that came after it.
Because
And
yeah,
it's-
Xenogears.
To the extent that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was actually a minor hit, like I think
Yeah.
just under 2 million copies worldwide, which is nuts because it's this weird niche, like ultra JRPG that
Yeah.
takes 2 hours to play through. Sorry,
200.
200 hours to play through, like 120 hours to play through, and now Nintendo Europe, even though Nintendo of America would probably happily do the localization now that they know it's a hit, now Nintendo Europe just does it.
I
And
do
so-
really like the voices, the British voices. It's a nice
Yeah.
change. Like
It's
a lot
great.
of games.
You get to walk around with a bunch of super Welsh companions. It's great.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's very fun. Like I said, for the first maybe half / first third of the game, the main villain is basically this evil machine creature who's been like just killing everyone, all of like the humans, and he's called Metal Face, and he's this giant like 60 to 80 foot tall machine with huge claws and a gigantic laser gun in the back of his head, and he talks in a ridiculous Cockney accent, and it's just so charming.
Sure, sounds cool.
I really just want like the UK to do more dubbing because we hear like characters from anime and Japanese media when they get dubbed. We always hear it in American accents. There's no reason for Japanese characters to have American accents specifically, right? Like why can't they have English
sure.
accents or I don't know
Hate to tell
Jamaican
you,
accents, South
sometimes
African
because
accents.
they pay more to learn American accents, honestly. And that's coming from teaching English in Korea. The Canadian teachers get paid less because their accent. Hate to tell you. So there is a reason.
Jesus.
I mean, our accent isn't that different from the American
Oh.
accent, is it?
Well, it's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, my accent has sort of shifted American-ish since I moved to the States.
I mean, it really.
So I don't say my
cannot tell.
stories quite as hard.
Yeah,
anymore.
no. I'm just saying, like, from some, I don't know how much this goes into animes and stuff, but it is kind of like a mark of like, like we consider British people to be cultured. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind
Yeah.
of like that in some of those countries where they consider like speaking with a no noticeable accent American English is kind of like cool, if that makes sense. Like
Okay,
there'll
I
be
can see
people who
that.
like kind of throw back and forth. Oh, you speak it really well. You don't have an accent. And that's one of the reasons they pay people like me to go over there and make a bunch of money and do nothing.
Yeah, I've been told by because I don't have a very thick Canadian accent, I have a pretty neutral accent. I've been told by lots of people from abroad that I have very good, clear English.
You do.
Which my Canadian friends would not agree with because they think I sound American, and my American friends think I sound Canadian. So I don't know how well that works.
But I mean, we do that all the time in just regular English. We use a lot of accents as shortcuts. The New Yorker guy, he's the dumb tough guy, and the Southern guy, he's a simple guy, and like we do the same thing. It's just
Or
it
the
also
other
translates in
Southern
how
guy
we
who's
dub
dumb.
things, right? Like so, like characters who speak Kansai dialect in Japan, they for some odd reason get translated as Southerners, which I've been told has kind of the wrong connotation. You should really be giving them something more like a Midwest accent. But anyway, it's hard to kind of draw that cultural analogy. So yeah, that's Xenoblade. Kappa, what have you been playing?
Oh boy, I don't think you guys are ready for this one. Have you guys played Dead in Vinland? I don't think it's that new.
Sorry?
I've heard of it, but I have no idea what it is.
Dead what?
Dead in Vinland.
I think I heard about it, but I never saw any gameplay of it.
It's a sequel to a game I don't think anybody played called Dead in Bermuda, but it's like a weird French indie developer, 4 people. Like, this isn't a Kappa game, this is a Merve game, but it popped up, and it has kind of like that same Banner Saga artwork and a Viking game. So at first I was like, whatever. But I loaded it up, and it's basically consumed me for 3 or 4 days now. It's all I can play. You're a shipwrecked Viking family. Guy, his daughter, his wife, and his sister-in-law. You kind of are kicked out of the homestead for various reasons. Your sister-in-law is kind of a witch. Your wife is kind of a shield maiden who maybe desires a little more power. The husband is just like, I don't know. He's kind of ineffectual, but like he's not portrayed as like a super warrior or anything like that. Anyway, you're shipwrecked, and you have to kind of scavenge and craft your way around this island. And at the same time, there's a lot of mysterious lost stuff, like almost going on this island. There's a local tribe of Vikings that shows up every couple days and demands stuff for you. If you don't give it to them, they basically either beat you or steal your stuff or damage your house or whatever. So there's a lot of crafting mechanics going in with survival mechanics. You explore a lot. As you explore, you run into other people. You can recruit some of them. There's weird little puzzles in the forest that, like, some of them center around like these runes that you have to figure out what the puzzle wants you to do. You can kind of brute force it, but you don't get the best rewards if you do it that way. So I've really been enjoying it. I don't know how many playthroughs this kind of game would really, necessitate. But at least on this first one, I'm kind of taking my time with it, trying to figure out the game a lot. I'm really liking it. It kind of came out of nowhere. And it wasn't typically my kind of game, but real nice music, good-looking game, interesting story. And I haven't really played a game like this before, honestly.
Now that I look at images of it, because I looked it up on Google, it kind of reminds me, when it comes to battle, a little bit of oh boy, Darkest Dungeons. Yeah,
I can see that. Honestly, the combat's kind of the worst part. I feel like I've already kind of screwed up characters. I try to make too many general characters, and I what I really want to do is kind of replay it and have 3 battler characters, and then so that I can because it seems like you only fight with the same 3 people. So I really need to go back and kind of specialize people, because the game kind of it's punishing. If you lose battles, it really hurts. Your characters get injured on top of being depressed, and yeah, and then once you get those 2 together, like you can actually have like a character kind of like spiral out of control through depression and injury. So it's like, I broke my arm, and now I'm sad that I broke my arm, and they're just like, they can't eat, they don't want to sleep, they don't drink. It's kind of interesting how the game handles all that. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's a really hard game. I haven't really played anything like this in this. I guess this is like a survival RPG, maybe.
So it looks like a cross between Darkest Dungeon and this War of Mine. Almost.
Yeah, I could see this War of Mine. There's a lot of random events, and when they pop up, you have no idea what to do. And if you play it wrong, you maybe miss out on a recruitable character or like a piece of armor that really could have helped, or so there's a lot going on there. I'm only just kind of like learning the mechanics as I play. But I've been having a good time with it, and for a game that kind of came out of nowhere and I wasn't even expecting to be interested in, having a really good time with it.
Yeah, it looks interesting. It's not really the kind of game that I'd be immediately inclined to try, but I'm glad that you're putting it out there, because I think more people should know about weird indie games like this. Science, what have you been playing?
Oh well. I haven't been playing a very cool indie game. I've been playing a very cool AAA release, Resident Evil 2 remake. I've been playing a lot of that.
Woohoo!
Yeah, that's a fantastic game. I've done I've done a lot. Most of what you can do in that game. I got all the trophies, and now I'm basically doing all the bonus stuff that's not in the trophies, but it's like in the in-game missions. So yeah, it's I really like it. Oh boy, there's a lot to talk about here. I want to be concise. It looks fantastic. If you ever saw it in motion, it has beautiful graphics. Really, I am surprised that it works as good as it is working on a PlayStation 4, on a base PlayStation 4. It's never dips below 35 FPS, I think. It mostly goes on it works at 45 to 60 FPS, which is amazing because it looks fantastic. It's based on their Resident Evil re-engine, which is also what powered Resident Evil 7, and it looks spectacular.
So, did Resident Evil 2, the original, have fixed camera angles?
Yes, yes, it did. Yes, it did. It's okay. So it's a completely new game basically because it plays very differently. It has third-person perspective over the shoulder action.
It's more like. So Resident Evil 4, which kind of did the over-the-shoulder system and changed it to more of a third-person shooter, that still used tank controls.
Yeah.
And Resident Evil 2, the Resident Evil 2 remake kind of functions like what if that kind of RE4 engine was used in a retelling of RE2.
Yeah, I think that Resident Evil 4 appeared, and then Dead Space looked at that and, hey, we could do it better. And then Resident Evil 2 remakes looked at Dead Space and said, oh yeah, we can do that better. And the snake is eating its own tail. Ouroboros, Resident Evil 5. Anyway, so Resident Evil 2 remake is basically retelling of Resident Evil 2. It has same characters appear in it, but a lot of the action is way more impactful. Like, it's not like stationary tank controls kind of awkward action that Resident Evil 2 had, but you all are in control more than you were in Resident Evil 2. Still, the corridors are making the game feel claustrophobic, and it has a very good tense atmosphere. It's more of a survival game than Resident Evil 4 and many other Resident Evil games have been up to this point. You really do have to look out for your bullet count and first aid supplies. And mostly this game is about planning, which a lot of Resident Evils and a lot of games haven't been for a while. I think that the best thing that this game does is force you to plan your actions. You are at a safe point, you know where you have to go or what you have to do, where you have to go exploring. You have to plan what you have to take with you because you have limited inventory space. And it's less about backtracking and, going back to your save point and redeploying and all of that. It's more like, I'm going on a journey. I want to be well prepared, but I want to have some spaces free for whatever I find on my way to the next thing. And it has some pretty good puzzles. Talking about ludonarrative dissonance earlier on, this game is full of it. Obviously, this police station shouldn't have red jewels that you have to place in eyes of tigers or whatever the fuck. But it doesn't matter. If you're looking for that kind of thing, this isn't a game like that. But it has. Yep.
I was gonna say that Resident Evil historically is not like a cerebral series. Not in the sense
schlock. It's schlock. It's 100% schlock.
Well, no, it's not. No, when I say that, I don't mean to say it's dumb. I mean to say it's not logical. Yeah,
but it's. Yeah, I meant to say it's dumb. It's very dumb. It's no, the dumbest thing.
I want to give it a little bit more credit.
I don't.
It's more like I guess kind of the best way to describe it is like casually surreal, where like even when it's kind of really dark and when it's successfully dark, it's still just really weird, and the spaces you go into are really weird. And
Yeah.
and I think that like it's sort of just it's its own logic that really makes sense, and the worst Resident Evil games are the ones where that logic is like either very perfunctory or doesn't really feel super fun. Like Resident Evil 7 has that logic, and it's still really cool. Like there's no reason for this mansion in this super gritty, gross game to have like ridiculous puzzles about statues that you have to fit together.
Yeah, but I think it's just dumb.
Let me ask this: you guys think
Yeah?
we probably got a 3 remake, right?
Yeah,
Do you think keep going?
Sure.
Do they remake 4?
4 is
no.
perfect. They don't need to remake it.
Nah, 4
And
is
then
perfect.
nothing after 4, right? I mean,
Actually, I would like to see Code Veronica, and I would
No, oh Jesus, no.
but I would honestly really like to see, going back to what I said earlier, Resident Evil 6 is a bad game on so many levels, but I want to see them just remake the idea entirely and cut out all the extraneous action and just kind of make it this like really spooky 24 knockoff about all these people trapped in this one neighborhood of China.
No, I think it's beyond saving. That game is beyond saving. It was designed from the get up to like be action, adventure, fighting biological weapons with machine guns and rocket launchers and helicopters crashing into each other, Michael Bay style, and
I think you can make a fun Michael Bay style game.
But
you just have to commit to it.
But it's not Resident Evil. It's not Resident Evil.
I guess. Go ahead.
But that's I think my feeling is like it would never happen and probably shouldn't happen. But I would like to see someone just be like, we're going to throw all of this out and reimagine this as a way more toned down, normal, like Resident Evil 2 level of storytelling.
I would argue Resident Evil 4 isn't a Resident Evil game. It's not really. It
is.
It's not.
I mean, Resident Evil is kind of.
I would argue it's not. You can say it is. It is in many aspects of it, but it has a very linear.
I mean, it's called
aspect.
Resident Evil.
It
That's
is.
one important aspect.
but it's as much Resident Evil as 6 is Resident Evil, and I'm not talking about quality of the game. I'm not talking about the quality.
It's a space. It's a game. It still has a lot of those same values. It is more action heavy, but it's also a game where the action is only as reliable as the enemies, who are just incredibly overpowered.
But I think like when Resident Evil 2 remake, let's say this game, and many of the other of its ilk, place you in a big puzzle box and you have to dodge through enemies to get to the puzzles and solve them and move on. Resident Evil 4 places you in a big arena, places full of monsters in that arena, and asks you to kill them all to proceed. And that's mostly what that game does. It has a different concept of interaction of gameplay. You know, it asks you for different things to think about. Like it has barely any planning. You can kill every enemy in that game, not worry about ammo. Even on the hardest difficulty, I done that, had no problem with that. You don't have to leave anyone alive, and it's basically an action game. And I think that has a different ethos from every other like more survival focused Resident Evil games, and that's the core of the series. Whether you think that the core of the series has switched to more of an action kind of thing, that's fair.
It did from 4 to 6.
Yeah, I think that when 4 came out, Resident Evil was still like a strong enough franchise that a game that kind of like questioned and went against a lot of its values like could still function.
Yeah, but they did change that because they thought that you could not do those things and still be a modern fun video game, which I think
it did start with them wanting to basically get rid of a lot of the excesses of survival horror tropes.
Yes.
But at the same time, like it still went enough reversions, considering that one of the ones was going to be so much of a dissonance that it basically became Devil May Cry.
Yeah, Devil May Cry. Yeah. I Yeah, I treat it a little bit like a different game, a little bit. I love it. I love Resident Evil 4. I bought it on most things that it came out on and completed it on most things that came out on. But
I will be getting it again for the Switch.
yeah.
They're making it for the Switch? Oh, dear.
I will also, but yeah, I think that Resident Evil 2 Remake is the best Resident Evil game right now. Like, a close second is Resident Evil 1 Remake, which is also a very, very good game, but Resident Evil, like, I could go on and on, like, give me half an hour of, like, I could make my own, like, episode of something to just talk about, like...
Just have, like, a Resident Evil podcast. We can
Yeah. But all in all, I just, like, it's top of the shelf, like, for me, it's one of the best games I've played in quite a while.
All right, so that's Resident Evil. Speaking of shooters, there is a very prominent shooter that's set to come out soon called Anthem. In fact, by the time this podcast is out, it might already be out for you. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm honestly, like, legitimately, admittedly, this is sort of like coincidentally, like the Resident Evil 2 remake, where I wasn't really paying attention to it until I realized it was just coming out. And it's really weird that Anthem's just coming out. Like, this is, given what this game is potentially going to mean, and we'll be getting into that, it's really weird that it's just coming out now.
Yeah, I feel like we've been talking about it for 3 years straight and just waiting for it to drop, and now that it's finally here, it feels a little surreal.
Also, like Kingdom Hearts 3. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
that's like the Chinese democracy of video games right there.
Final Fantasy 15.
Except for actually good, apparently. Anyway, so Anthem is, for those of you who are unaware, is a looter shooter in the vein of Destiny or Defiance.
A looter shooter.
Division.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Division.
Oh,
That's
I
the
guess
big
Defiance
one. Why do
too.
all of these start with D?
Yeah.
Anyway, I mentioned Defiance because that's one of the ones I've played. I haven't actually played the Division.
If Anthem started
throwback.
with a D, maybe it would have been a better game.
Anthem?
Yeah.
Danthem. Yeah, so it's gonna come out soon. It's the variation from previous looter shooters is that this one's third person, and you can fly around in. I was gonna call it a mech, but it's more of an exosuit. So you can fly around in an exosuit a bit. That's what kind of sets it apart from Destiny. So I had a little bit of a chance to play the demo yesterday, and my verdict is it's okay, I guess. So, like, just very quick, my opinions on. So it was okay. What I liked about it were, I think, the basic shooting mechanics are very good. Like, it feels good to fire the guns at enemies and lob grenades at them. I think the art design is actually surprisingly good for this game. You've got these lush alien worlds. The central city, I think, is called Fort Tarsus, is very well designed, has a lot of character. It's well voice acted, even though the dialogue is basically just your standard sci-fi gibberish. What doesn't work so well about this game is, I mean, aside from the bugs and that it took me 3 tries to get it running, is
just that.
Yeah, the thing that I don't really like is I think the mission design is really boring. It's just like, go here, shoot this, go there, shoot that. Nothing terribly exciting there.
It's weird because it's a demo. It should, like, give you something at least to talk about.
You would think. You would think that'd be an idea that they might have want to run with, but
it feels extremely generic.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like video game paced, and it's not unfun. Like, I can see myself.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not video game pace. It's not without its charms.
Yeah, like, it's the kind of thing where it's the kind of thing that's only going to be fun with friends. Like,
it's the Bachelor Chow of food. It's like,
yeah, pretty much. Like,
Soylent Green.
That's the thing, though. If you got together a bunch of friends, I could see having fun with it. But there's no way. Like, even they've kind of said, oh, you can solo this if you'd like. No, you can't solo this game. Like, Destiny, you can sort of solo if you want, just like the main missions. Anthem, you cannot solo Anthem. It's not feasible.
Yeah.
Not even in the slightest.
I mean, the game didn't come out, so we are not 100% sure of what we're talking about. But for now, the first impressions seem like
this is not a game to be soloed. You need to play this.
One of the things that has me worried, though, is even with the game not being out, it's been getting blasted on YouTube, a lot of different places. And one of the things I've been hearing a lot has been, oh, well, this is a 6-month-old build or a 6-week-old build, or you know what I mean? From a lot of devs. I don't know if that's acceptable either. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of weird to me that's your fallback is, oh, no, this is just a really old one. I don't know if that encourages me to pre-order. You know?
Yeah, like, Kappa, also, not for nothing, but this is a game that's been in development for over 5 years.
Yeah.
Like...
This is the game that basically they laid the Mass Effect Andromeda on the altar of it'll just be a game instead of a Mass Effect game.
I mean, I would argue that Destiny was in development for God knows how long, and it was just barely better than what Anthem has to offer.
I'm gonna way disagree there.
I
don't want to be
I think Destiny was kind of like generically boring, but yeah, that's my perspective. Like Destiny 1 at launch, there was not much to do in that game.
If you think there's not a lot to do in Destiny, oh boy, have I got news for you about Anthem.
I'm saying Destiny is
so
it was a better game.
What I'll say about Destiny, because I've only played Destiny 2 and not that much of it. I think Destiny 2 is probably, and it's not really fair because I played the Destiny 2 demo long after Destiny 2 had been out. But what I could say about Destiny 2 is that the level and mission design is a lot more interesting. Though I prefer the shooting in Anthem by a considerable margin. And I know that's an unpopular opinion. That just what you actually do in Destiny 2 is a lot more interesting.
Oh yeah, no, Destiny 2 is way better than Destiny 1, and yeah, that's that game. Like they learned what to do based on failures of Destiny 1. Anthem is like Destiny 1 of BioWare, I think. Maybe if they survive.
I think the biggest glaring difference is in the equivalent of the Stronghold mission that you play in Anthem. Now, granted, you don't have access to like the highest difficulty, the highest gear, all that, right? I'm just judging off the demo, but the boss mechanic. The way I could describe it is this: the boss mechanic in the Anthem demo for their equivalent of the Destiny strike would be the most boring Destiny strike, period. Like people would hate that strike if that strike was in Destiny, and that's the strike that Anthem chose to show off, right? That's crazy to me. That's like there's no mechanics. The bosses literally shoot it in the back. Like, we've been past shoot the boss in the back in Destiny for a while now. You know?
Yeah, but it was in Destiny 1. Like, bosses in Destiny 1 were very boring. So
the problem is that Anthem isn't competing against Destiny 1.
Yeah, I
Anthem's competing against Destiny 2 and Division 2.
Oh, yeah.
And whoever's still playing Defiance.
Yes, but
and Warframe.
My perspective is that, Destiny 1 should have been better back then even. Back then we had better games than Destiny 1. Like, games had better game design even back then.
Yeah, but I guess with Anthem, I mean, this is what
and
the
people
reason
still played it. That's my point. And people still latched onto it. So
I just don't know that people will latch onto this game with the market so saturated.
Yeah,
and maybe people will. There's stuff to like.
I mean, people play Division, and Division
game.
is also kind of a run of the mill, like boring multiplayer game.
But I
think
before
the market got saturated.
But those games don't have this life of a studio that we all love online. That's the
one thing. Yeah.
I think, I actually think that might be a good thing that we should get into because. Like, Merve thought it was okay. Kappa disliked it. I've not played the Anthem demo, but I'm pretty sure all of us here have a lot of stake in this game, not even if we buy it, because of that its reception is almost certainly going to determine the fate of BioWare, the wonderful RPG studio that did Mass Effect and Dragon Age and KOTOR and...
basically, this was a mistake.
Pretty much. I feel like I've been the canary in the mine for a long time because I play looter shooters, and everything I saw about this game was like, whoa, there is a lot of warning signs out here down the line for this, and then finally hits. And I think if you look at a lot of YouTubers or reviewers, whatever you want to call them, the demo was there was a lot of problems. I think if you look into the fan base, they liked what they got, and I think that if you look at places like forums and Reddit, the devs have been very, very active in there, trying to kind of calm people down and say, hey, what you saw wasn't the whole thing, and it might not be, but that's your fault. This is what you showed me, you showed me a demo that was supposed to get me hyped, and this isn't like the first 10 minutes of the game. This is somewhere mid game that you're showing me, and you did it for a reason. So I'm not gonna just wave that away and say, oh, I only got to see a part of it. But at the same time, I mean, what's got me worried is Dragon Age 4, man. I need Dragon Age 4. I need Jade Empire.
Do you?
Too.
Really?
Well, they just renewed the trademark on Jade Empire a few
but that could also
weeks
just
ago.
be like EA trying to keep its properties.
But also, really, do you? Because like Mass Effect Andromeda. Oh yeah, I love BioWare. I think they did great stuff in the past, but then something happened. The doctors, I think, took the magic with them when they left the company, and Inquisition was the last. It wasn't fantastic. It was good. It was a good game, and then Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't a very good game. But basically, the writing was kind of crappy and a lot of technical.
But that was the thing, though. I like a lot of post-Dr. BioWare, though. I like Mass Effect 3. I like Dragon Age Inquisition. I didn't play Andromeda.
I like those games too, but they are of lower quality than what was in the past, though.
I'd take Inquisition over Dragon Age 2.
Okay, Dragon Age 2 was kind of shitty, but Dragon Age 1 was fantastic. It was way, way better, and I think that Mass Effect 2 was better than Mass Effect 3. And it's like a slope that just goes like in one direction.
I don't know that it's such a steep slope though, because I like Inquisition and Origins for different reasons. I like 3 and 2 for different reasons.
I really like Dragon Age, and I couldn't play through Inquisition. I recognize that it's a well-made game, but it was kind of boring to me. I preferred Dragon Age 2 because of its writing than Inquisition. I got really bored of Inquisition.
No, I can see that, and it's not an unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
For me, 2 didn't super work for me because I think it was trying to juggle too many stories and give them all equal weight.
But
which
it had great
really
aspirations, and it couldn't back them up. It like placed everything in one city and reused all of the assets over and over again. And
I would actually love to see a version of Dragon Age 2 with massive budget and time.
Yeah,
that would be a super interesting game. It's just never going to get made because Dragon Age 2 kind of did not get received very well. Like to the point of BioWare kind of hinging all its hopes on this. Like I said, Anthem is not an awful game. I can see people playing this and enjoying it. It just doesn't seem like a game that needs to exist in a saturated market.
Seems like a month thing, basically.
It feels like it's a copycat game in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And the thing that's supposed to set it apart, the fact that you can fly around in an exosuit, turns out to be almost the worst part of the game because the exosuit controls like shit, and you can only fly for like 30 seconds at a time max.
Yeah, a lot of the complaints about the flying on the forums and stuff have been met with, well, you got to get good. And then I think they finally said, okay, fine, we changed the way the flying works, but it's not going to be in this demo. But like every game has a hook, right? Like I really feel like this game's hook is flying, right? Like you feel like Iron Man, you float in air and you point stuff and but that feels so unsatisfying in the demo. It's hard to explain to anybody who's like looked at videos like, what do you mean? That's not cool. And it's like, no, it's not cool. It's a pain. I spend more time running into walls than not. And I mean, you can say get good all you want, but like I've messed with sensitivity. I've tried this, I've tried that. But the only thing that seemed to work was plugging in my controller. This game was 100% designed for consoles. Anybody who's played it on PC can tell you.
It's just like you can't pilot this thing with a mouse. It doesn't work.
It's really weird. And like even the menus. So you know how that classic let's switch between menu tabs using Y and Q, I think is what it was. Like
oh yeah, what the crap.
There's a lot of like instead of pressing a
but
button,
you can move your mouse around, so it's not so bad. At least in the build because I didn't play the VIP demo.
Yeah.
I think the public demo was a little bit different. So the menus I was actually quite satisfied with. They have a pretty wide array of PC options. You can adjust the mouse sensitivity for the mechs or the exosuit separately from regular mouse sensitivity. So they have tried to address all these things. It just, I think at a fundamental level, the way they want you to pilot the mech just does not work with mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, it really does. It's really a console game. Like there's like dashes in the game that aren't very super responsive. Like there's a dash button instead of a double tap. There might be a double tap in there now, but or I might have missed it. But that's another thing. The demo is just kind of like, here you go. Like there's very little like.
Oh, there's no hand holding whatsoever.
No,
it's just like, here's Wasty. Now have fun.
Yeah. So yeah, it's overall. I don't want to be like too negative on it. I think there's still potential, and I'm still going to play it weirdly because I have the Origin Pass thing. But I guess why I wanted to talk about this, why I want to bring this up, is the BioWare connection, and with the stake of the company online. Yeah.
No. Sorry, because I wanted to actually. That's something I wanted to actually kind of get into. Or Kappa. So, like, we've been talking about, like, the hook of this game, like the flying or the kind of the grandiose alien worlds. But I feel like kind of the one thing we've not talked about is kind of the one thing that brought us all to like BioWare, which is, the writing and the characters. And, I'm looking at some of the screenshots, and there's these beautiful looking worlds. It's certainly better than Andromeda, which had basically desert planet, ice planet, and other desert planet. Yeah. But, like, there doesn't seem to be any actual characters. It's just
part of that's intentional. Supposedly they scrubbed the demo of literally anything story related. I mean, there's one story mission there. It's very slight, so that might be intentional that you're not seeing any of that. But I don't think there's going to be party members. Well, I know there's not going to be party members. There's not going to be relationships. There's not going to be a lot of those touchstones. And I think what's going to happen with this game, honestly, is it's going to be a miss for the RPG people, and it's going to be a miss for the shooter people for different reasons. And
so my question is,
jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
Yeah, but my question is, where did the money go? Well, what did they design that's very good?
Well,
I don't see it.
It looks good. Frostbite is a good-looking engine, number one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really competent engine. It does a lot of cool stuff. It does a lot of good, but I think even a lot of BioWare people might have said this. I'm not 100% sure, but they've said they've had problems with Frostbite in the past. Whereas you go across the street or, across the theoretical street in EA, and DICE are like wizards when it comes to Frostbite, right? Like
because they're designing it for their games, not for everybody else's games.
But it's why the combat in this feels like combat from Mass Effect Andromeda straight up. I mean, like down to the bars or the colors. So what it's based around is doing combos, right? So like Merve hits it with a shock, and then I hit it with a flamethrower, and boom, we've detonated a combo, which is like what the gameplay loop is supposed to be. The problem is when you're dropped. I mean, with your friends, yeah, that's going to be fun. Hey, I'm running shock coil. Are you going to run flamethrower or what? You know what I mean? So like we're talking and having primers and detonators and this sort of stuff, and that's probably what the high level gameplay is going to be. But,
in a demo where you're just paired with 3 strangers, that does not happen.
Exactly. So that system doesn't really get to shine. I mean, like I was getting combos, but it was completely random. I was like, okay, cool. Somebody must have put that thing on there, and you can check people out, see what abilities are using and stuff. But there's a whole flow chart of what detonates and what primes. That I don't know if the average person is going to care about because, in Destiny, it's all a very visual system. I look at the guy, he has a blue shield. If I shoot him with a blue gun, his shield goes down faster, or it explodes when you break his shield. That's all there for me right there on the screen. I don't have to pay attention to all this other stuff. Hey, there's an icon over this guy's head. It looks like a flame, so I guess he has a fire primer on, so I need to use a fire detonator. It's all too much. When you're just looking to mow down hordes of enemies. But at higher level gameplay, it might be more of a thing. But back to what you were saying about the story, I think it's not there maybe a little bit on purpose, but I think they're saying it's a 30-ish hour campaign, which is about right. I think Destiny's probably about 15 or 20.
Destiny 1?
2.
Oh, okay, 2, yeah.
But
yeah.
What I've been saying about Destiny a lot when we talk about story and themes and stuff like that is that the vast majority of people who play Destiny don't give a shit. They do not care about the story. And I know a lot of us say, oh, well, there's no story in Destiny. It's there. It's in the lore books and grimoires.
It's just like, it's very kind of offsite.
I really like story in Destiny 2. I wish there was story in Destiny 1. That's what I missed.
But I think for those of us who are there for the RPG part of it, I think they're going to be the minority. I think the people who are there to shoot stuff and blow stuff up and get loot, I think that's going to be the majority in it. And if they're not happy, and then the RPG people aren't happy, like I said, you're ended up with a worst of both worlds.
Yeah, but the RPG people shouldn't be around in the first place because obviously it's not
But it's
an RPG.
BioWare, so they're gonna.
Yeah, I think it's fair to assume that a company that is very well known for its writing and characters will provide good writing and characters.
Yeah, but also you don't want to get like...
There are hints of that. Okay.
Yeah, I guess, but you don't want to just like be confined to one, one thing, basically.
Yeah, no,
So,
I get that.
Let me say this about the demo. The on-mission chatter in this game is just completely inane.
It really is.
It's like it's completely meaningless. There's no point to it. But the between mission stuff, I think, it feels like standard, like vintage, really really good BioWare. I'm gonna spoil a moment in the demo if you folks don't mind. There's a part where you bring this weird alien artifact back to the guy who sends you on the mission, and he puts it on a machine. I think his name is Matthias or something like that. It's an extremely well voice acted character. Like it's an impressive performance, for one. But so he takes this alien device, he puts it on this machine, and then out of nowhere he just splits into 3 different bodies that each contain an aspect of his personality, and they have this really funny scene where the 3 different facets of him are talking to each other, and they're super confused that he's been split into 3. And that's really fun, creative writing. And maybe that's going to be in Anthem, but I don't think that's the main attraction for people who are going to be playing this game. And it's the kind of stuff that's not going to get super appreciated.
Does any of the 3 characters say that a wizard came from the moon?
No, but
I wish, because that would have been hilarious.
Yeah, that's almost the on-mission dialogue, like he's saying, it's worse than Destiny, like markedly worse. It's very like, it's hard to even explain. It's like they're having like this friendly chatter, and they're not Ghost, who's the British guy, with the kind of like droll accent, is talking with not Akora, who's the the tough charging woman who's trying to get you on mission to get it done. And it's just kind of the way they talk to each other. It's awful. It's really bad. It reminds me of like one of those E3 demos where they have like the 2 like fake people demoing the game, and it's like, hey, look over there. Looks like there's some crystals in the distance. Let's go check it out. Like,
yeah.
It feels a lot like that. Like it's weird.
So BioWare is basically dead after this, right? Like I think we're all kind of assuming.
I don't know. I think that people will. This will find an audience. I don't know if they will, earn a lot of money, but I think this will find an audience.
My guess about Anthem is this. My guess is that EA has been pushing the Origin access thing a lot more. And I think this is the kind of game that they want, because the incentive for this game that most EA games don't have is the longevity to keep you paying $15 for the whole year, rather than for a couple months until you beat it and then canceling their service and then getting it back in 15, paying another 15 3 or 4 months later when there's another game you want. Because even most of the EA shooters right now have a short shelf life. Unfortunately, I love Battlefield, short shelf life. Titanfall 2, great game, short shelf life. So what they're looking for is a game that sells their service year-round, right? They've already got the sports people, because all the Madden and FIFA and NHL people are getting this service right now because they're going to get the new Madden anyway, right? Yeah. But there's a huge segment that plays these types of games. As much as people are like, Destiny's this, Destiny's population is huge, and they stick with it, and they play it every damn day most of the time, So that's what EA wants, and I think that's what they thought Anthem was going to be. Now, I don't think BioWare can deliver that, number one, but I don't know. To me, what this means is I wonder if at some point BioWare is like, just fine, just take over Anthem. Here you go, EA, and we're going to go back. Or if they try to buy themselves out like Bungie did. But the other end of it, I think, is really,
Bungie
really
was
sad.
never owned by Activision.
Right. So the other end of it, I think, is just basically BioWare being another EA studio. I mean, like, it's a Westwood situation where, like, it was one flop too many. But that's why I wanted to talk about this game. That's what I was mostly concerned about when it started getting announced, and that's really, really, really the the pathway down the future. I see where BioWare is just going to be straight up just EA. I mean, it's just going to be a studio that they bring in to do certain games, and they own the license and stuff. But who knows who's actually doing what? I don't think the studio's dead. I just think it's that whatever independence they had is basically gone at this point.
So
Yeah, like Dragon Age 4, I still think is going to get made regardless because Dragon Age Inquisition made too much money not for Dragon Age 4 to get made. But beyond that, I don't know what the studio's future is, and I think whatever happens to Anthem, their days as a studio making big Western RPGs is done.
Right.
Yeah.
So my theory is
Yeah.
Anthem, BioWare has enough fan base to sell stuff. Look at all the games that haven't been great that sold a lot. Mass Effect Andromeda. It didn't do as amazing as they thought it would. It still sold somewhat decently. I think Anthem will do the same thing, and then BioWare, as Kappa said, will become EA, and I'm honestly a little okay with it, to be honest. Love BioWare games, but the company's dead. It's been dead
Same.
for a while.
See,
Exactly same train of thought there.
What I'm interested in seeing though is because, like you said, Andromeda sold well, right? But right now, you can basically play Anthem for $15 for a month, right? What's going to be interesting to see is if this drives people to the EA Origin Access store and not so much to buying Anthem. Does that make sense? Like, are people willing to spend $15 to test it out for a month, or are they going to go ahead and buy the whole game and assume, okay, yeah, this is going to be something that I'm gonna dump? I mean, basically, that's Origin Access for 6 months, So.
Yeah, I mean, EA will be happy either way. They want to make people come by their shit, their
and that's my little conspiracy theory on all this. Is I don't think EA cares what this sells in terms of like NPD numbers. I think they're going to look at how many people did this bring to the service, because the service is what they're more interested in, right? Than anything else. So this is like the expensive game that gets you in the walled garden, of EA Origin Access, but. I've tried to convince people on it for a while that it's a really, really, really good deal, but I don't think everybody's bought it just yet, So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm always going to be worried about the future of the studio, but at the end of the day, if BioWare isn't making the kinds of games that I want to play, am I really going to miss the studio once it it's not going to fold over this, but am I really going to miss something that has not been what I wanted to be for so long? Like, they're not going to make Jade Empire 2, so
no,
at a certain
they're
point I'm going
not.
to stop caring.
Yeah,
They're not going to go for any niche game anymore. Like, they just want to make big budget, like, people-pleasing games, so, yeah.
It's like, regardless of anything, there's very little chance, basically no chance of it really ever going back to making the kind of games that we really liked it for. And that's not necessarily exclusively a bad thing if the games they start making are good, but they did fill a really important niche in the kind of blockbuster games market of being these very disproportionately dialogue-heavy things and character-heavy things. And losing that is, it's not as big of a loss now as I think it would have been then, because we've got so many more games doing stuff like that. But it is still a loss.
I think that's part of why everything happened. Like, the market is also, a little bit going for those games. Like, there's more competition for like story-driven RPGs everywhere. Like, big budget games are even like cramming their games full of like dialogue choices and all kinds of stuff, that kind of stuff. So
Isn't there a Call of Duty game with dialogue choices now?
I think so. So, like, BioWare isn't, like, the only people that are doing that. So they thought that they had to, like, probably EA made them, like, think, like, okay, so we have to do something different or like try different things to see, where we could go from here, because we have to change it up because, there's a lot of competition out there. And, maybe it was like a big, executive came in and said, yep, you have to shake things up. And the only thing, and he also said, yeah, you can go after like any kind of a trend that goes on in video games right now. And at that time, they looked at Destiny and said, yeah, we could do that, which was, I think, a big mistake. Like that's not BioWare's.
My understanding is that Destiny wasn't even out at the time that the idea for Anthem came up.
Really?
So it wasn't even inspired by Destiny.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That was very interesting.
Yeah. So while they were like developing Anthem, then Destiny gets announced.
Yeah, but who knows?
Anthem was in the very early stages.
Yeah, but at that point, who knows what the Anthem was at that point? Who knows?
Yeah, it might have been a completely different thing, and then they might have decided to ape Destiny.
Yeah, it's one of the things is that, just to go back to Andromeda, is that game initially was based around the idea of that all the planets were going to be procedurally generated, and apparently they were coming up with the idea before
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, No Man's Sky was announced, and that got shafted because that was incredibly difficult to make. But even if it had, again, just going back to the writing thing, how do you make like a big character-driven game with procedurally generated stuff?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
A lot of ship talk.
Yeah.
My idea, Mass Effect Battlegrounds. Make it happen.
Or
oh dear, I mean they're making Titanfall Battlegrounds essentially. I forget what it's called. It's not called. Yeah, so they're actually making a Titanfall Battle Royale for whatever weird reason.
Oh boy.
At least that's the rumor, and apparently it's going to be called something like Apex Legends or something like that. And the weird thing is that it's not going to involve mechs at all.
What?
So
I'm actually weirdly okay with this. I love just the ground running around of Titanfall. The combat is very fast, and it's got all those grapples and jumps and stuff. If it's just that where you're like wall running and like kind of like, there's not really a crazy battle royale right now. I mean, like Fortnite has the building thing, but like a straight up 1v1 or like not 1v1, but like where your shooting really matters, not just your building. And I think there's room for it. And I think Call of Duty, I don't know if that battle royale is really taking off.
And
is it called Blackout, the Call of Duty one?
Yeah,
it hasn't really taken off.
But there was one battle royale that failed miserably.
Oh, Radical Heights. That was the one that tried to be like self-consciously wacky.
But I mean, like, based around good shooting and good mechanics, because Titanfall has great shooting and great mechanics. So I think it'd be interesting to see what they can do. But everyone and their mom's going to have a battle royale, right? I mean, at this point. So I'm sure that this was going back to EA. Like,
they should make a mom-themed battle royale. That would be really fun.
There are Flash games that are battle royales. It's insane. You can play battle royale in your browser. Like it's crazy at this point.
And we don't necessarily need every game to be one.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be told. I guess what my point is, I wouldn't be mad that it doesn't include Titans if you're going to do a battle royale, because you can't have a Titan a battle royale. It'd be too crazy.
I get that. I just wanted a different. I want Titanfall 3, not Apex Legends.
Mech Warrior Battle Royale. Make it.
Anthem Battle Royale. No, that I would actually not be shocked if they add a battle royale mode with Anthem 6 months in.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked whatsoever.
A Kingdom Hearts Battle Royale.
Fucking like 7 Donalds wailing on each other. That would be fucking amazing.
That would be great.
Actually, speaking of Kingdom Hearts, so Kingdom Hearts 3 finally came out after I don't know, 7-8 years in development. Now it finally exists. And it's been how many years since the last mainline Kingdom Hearts? Like 14 years or something?
You're saying mainline, but they're all mainline.
Yeah.
They're all mainline.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2005, but apparently the most important game for understanding the plot of 3 was a Japanese-only mobile game that came out couple years ago.
Yes.
There you go.
Every every Kingdom Hearts game on every console. You have to own every console to get to know the plot of Kingdom Hearts because every one of them is vital to the plot.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't have to own every console. You can do what I did, which is buy the Story So Far collection, which has every pre-KH3 game. Anyway, the reason I bring up Kingdom Hearts 3 is because it's been 14 years since the last mainline Kingdom Hearts, although there have been other spin-off games that are apparently important for the plot.
Yes.
And
You can call them spin-offs, but they're vital.
Yeah, no, we need to be really clear on this. Narratively, those are not spin-offs. Those are just as much, and in some cases, even more important to the overarching story as some of the other Kingdom Hearts games.
It's insane.
Fair enough. But
Insane.
okay, what I will say though is that mechanically, a lot of these so-called spin-offs, these actually crucial games, are fairly different from the mainline Kingdom Hearts. And now Kingdom Hearts 3 has come out, and it's bringing back the old kind of gameplay with some twists. And what I'm wondering is if, and sort of to bring this into a broader discussion, is has it changed enough to reflect how fans' tastes might have changed in the intervening 14 years?
That's a tough question. Is anyone in the virtual room a Kingdom Hearts fan?
I love the series. So
Okay, Pulp,
there you go.
what do you say?
I
about
haven't
Kingdom
played 3 because I can't afford it right now.
Yeah.
So I can't really comment on that, but I'm glad they're going back because the spin-off games got really into stupid fucking gimmicks. There's a whole card-based one that is super important to even understand the story between 1 and 2, and the card system was just dumb. And then you got the one that takes place before all the games, and that one was actually kind of fun because it involved like 3 new characters, and they each have their own little style, and they were actually done. And then there's the one that takes place beforehand, and you play as the main character of the series and his best friend, and they randomly switch out, and that was fucking stupid too. Kingdom Hearts is I love
Man.
crazy and fucking stupid, and I love that mixture because you're just like, this is dumb, yet somehow I love it.
Sounds,
That's my-
sounds
been my
like a series full of like ups and downs, like very like this.
Okay, so I'm 6 hours into the first Kingdom Hearts right now, and I both love and hate it. Like,
See?
the combat is absolutely fucking atrocious, but the fact that like anime boys are interacting with Donald Duck and Goofy is the most
it's
fucking
so good.
hilarious
It's
and
so good
amazing
when
thing.
Donald spouts insane bullshit out of his like quacky mouth. I am
Yeah,
in
Donald
heaven.
Duck is saying like fucking serious JRPG dialogue,
Like, they
but
have
in
the-
Donald Duck voice. It's
yeah.
fucking
I
hilarious.
can't do a Donald Duck voice, but yeah.
Isn't like most of the dramatic like material related to Donald based around his enjoyment of ice cream?
No.
Oh, sorry. I may have just mistaken that for just the goofy death scene in 2.
Yeah.
There is.
He
a
hasn't
good
talked
list.
about ice cream yet in the first 6 hours. He's mainly just yelled at Goofy.
Okay, I
and-
have an important question though. Can anyone do a good Donald Duck voice?
No.
No,
Dang
No.
not even a little bit.
Should we try to do our
I
bad
can
Donald Duck?
do a
voices?
Goofy voice, but I can't do Donald Duck.
But
Like Goofy's more like, "Oh shucks, Max."
oh yeah,
like that.
Goofy is pretty
Mhm.
easy, but Donald is just atrociously like. Okay, let me try one.
I can't do it. Sorry. I can't do it. Sorry.
Okay.
This is awful podcasting.
Yeah.
No, it's an awesome.
We're gonna
podcast.
hurt our listeners' ears so badly.
No science. It's
So
an
yeah,
awesome
the reason I'm bringing up
Gosh.
Kingdom Hearts is, oh gosh, Max, yeah. No, the reason I'm bringing up Kingdom Hearts is because it's a series that has played with a lot of different mechanics, has changed a lot since its inception, and I kind of wanted to bring this into a broader discussion of, series change over time to reflect changing trends in gaming. Like we've seen, say BioWare's Mass Effect series threw in a multiplayer horde mode to capitalize on the popularity of that. And it's interesting to see if this trend chasing actually reflects how people's like how fans of the series' tastes have changed over time. So I don't know, Pulp, you've played quite a bit of Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the way the series has changed has tracked the way your tastes have changed over time?
Mine personally, no. It's
So
gone way too complex, and as I've gone older, I don't have time to play 40 games to understand the overly complex nature of what is fucking Star Wars Force powers. That's all the Keyblade is. It's a lightsaber, it's light and dark, and that's all it is. It is Star Wars with Disney characters.
Yeah, but it's also anime. That's why it's so insanely complicated.
And
I like anime, and most anime isn't this stupidly complicated.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's
but
not
Final
like
Fantasy games are.
I watched a lot of anime. This is a different kind of bullshit than so-called anime bullshit. It's a whole. It's more JRPG bullshit, but it's even an extreme version of JRPG bullshit.
Also, speaking of which, they even managed to rope in some Final Fantasy characters to sell the crossover, but they don't actually interact with anything.
Yeah, it's weird. Like in the first game, suddenly there were Final Fantasy games on the island. Like, what the fuck are you doing here, Waka? Like, what? Titus? What are you doing on this island? Who knows?
He's just there.
He's just there.
It also, I've listened to a number of ways to explain the story, a couple lectures from other members of this community that help kind of enlighten how, I'll go with complex the story is, and some other videos by various publications. But like, apparently the villain is you meet the younger version of the villain who exists in the same timeline as the old version of the villain, who's cloned himself into multiple other members
13.
of himself. Yes, but 13 members of himself, and they all come from either his heart or his body, because then you are heartless or a nobody, and they're trying to rebuild. So he
Horcruxed himself? Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and then he Horcruxes other people too.
Oh, and all of his bodies have different voice actors.
Why?
That's amazing.
Like, you know what's so weird
Huge
about
spoilers
Kingdom
if I
Hearts
tell
to
you
me?
the reason.
Like, I'm interested in Kingdom Hearts just to play it, to go through the Disney stages, but I have no interest in any of the plot that I've even heard about. Like, all the weird Final Fantasy-ish, spiky hair.
Yeah, let's throw out all of the bullshit and just focus on what this game was designed to be from the get-go. A crossover of like Disney characters with like a little bit of anime. Like, that's the main draw. Why is it so complicated?
That's the game I want to play. I really do want to play that game where I run around in Toy Story and,
why
missions with Woody. I don't know.
So I have a theory on why it went all weird.
Yeah, why?
The internet. Because it came out right as the internet was getting big and fan communities were starting to get really vocal towards creators. I think the fan community of Kingdom Hearts, which is rivals in some of the like Sonic level of fandom of, whoa, you people are intense. I think they got a hold of
that makes sense because Disney fans are kind of intense, so that tracks.
Yeah, I think they got a hold of the creator and went, we really like this, and the first game, little spoilers, Merve. They hint at a way bigger story going on, but they don't really go anywhere. I honestly don't think it was ever originally planned with how the story went out. That they're like, we want to know what's going on with all these little hints you kept dropping. And I think nobody went, hey, you need an editor.
Yeah.
Sadly.
It should also
by this point, he was just making all the money for Square, so they're just like, go do it.
It should also be noted that, like, while this is presenting itself as an ending to the mainline Kingdom Hearts trilogy, as well as like the 12 or whatever spinoffs, apparently Tetsuya Nomura, the creator of the games, who is also the character designer for Final Fantasy 7, 8, and I want to say 10, which are coincidentally the games that get the most representation in Kingdom Hearts. Apparently he's viewed this as a trilogy of trilogies.
Yep. He's been honest about that for a while.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There's supposed to be 9 games.
Oh my gosh, is this Shenmue all over again? What the fuck?
Yeah, it never ends. It's like Bleach, which I just started watching and hate already.
Okay. I'm one of the few people here who goes, Bleach isn't as bad as everybody thinks it is.
Okay, that's that.
Bleach cast.
Bleach did end though.
Actually, there is one thing. Apparently, 2 has a dramatic has a dramatic inclusion of information that is not presented to the viewer, and they explicitly kind of, I guess, the assumption was that Kingdom Hearts 3 would answer it, and then they explicitly stated that Kingdom Hearts 3 would not answer it.
Nice.
So
it's like Lost.
A little bit.
That's a lot of the feelings I get about it when people talk about it. It's more like there's something there, but someone along the lines have taken the wrong lessons and are just running with something that's really not what the fans want. Even I think.
One thing that that's kind of actually Kappa. I mean, I've been kind of wondering about is that, like, so this is a Disney crossover, right? Like, that's the primary appeal of this game. That's presumably why Nomura brought in all of the Disney content, right? Like, that's why you have a scene where, like, Tom Hanks's brother, who's playing Woody, does, like, a dramatic monologue. Like, that's why you get to see Frozen and Big Hero 6 and Pirates, and those are just in this game. And 100 Acre Wood and Tarzan and Olympus and stuff. But, like, as far as I can tell, the Disney stuff is just on its own because you just Sora, the hero, Donald, Goofy, and occasionally, but not actually Mickey, go basically through these Disney worlds. But those Disney worlds don't really
Why do they explain why are the Disney worlds Disney worlds? Why is any of this happening?
I think my bigger question is that the Disney worlds don't really interact with each other, so it's not really a crossover. It's just more of like characters going from world to Disney.
Yeah, okay, but
So minor spoilers.
Are those worlds? Are those like actual worlds? Like dimensions?
You fly a little spaceship to each little world, and then you play through whatever movie that world.
Okay, so do they explain why they are in the toy world? That's actually in the real world?
Not really. No. Okay, so minor spoilers. Sometimes characters from other worlds do go to other worlds in this game. So there is more crossover than initially appears.
But with such complex story, I thought they would explain why. Why is this? Why?
I think the implication.
No, you just kind of accept it.
Yeah, these are just it's just that the Disney worlds are just the alternate universes of this one.
Okay.
Of this one
the
world.
One of the universe just has living toys running around when people aren't looking.
Yeah,
it just is. You don't question it.
Yeah, it's why there aren't It's like why in Smash Brothers there aren't trophies of just everyone from everything.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I don't know. I'm tired when I think about Kingdom Hearts. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just tired when I hear about it.
It's interesting to me to go back and play this because I'm playing the first Kingdom Hearts right now, and it's very much like an old PS2 game, and it feels like an old PS2 game, despite the fact that it's been kind of up-res to HD. It has a lot of the same frustrations that old PS2 games have, where the controls are kind of janky, you can only save at certain points, the menus are really confusing. And I'm wondering if, I was a kid and playing this game, if I'd recognize the same frustrations.
Yes.
Or if, my tastes have changed in such a way that, now I don't want to put up with this, but you go back 15 years and I would have eaten this up. Or if you go back 15 years, I still would have felt the same way and found it equally janky and frustrating.
Can I say I did both?
Yeah. I did try playing Kingdom Hearts back in the day, and I found it kind of confusing, and I got angry very quickly with it.
Yeah, I love JRPGs. I don't hate Disney, but just even early on, everything I heard about Kingdom Hearts was just like, I don't know. Like even in the initial games, I want to say what was 358/2. That was like a pretty older one, right?
Okay.
No, that was
358 days over 2, as I think are supposed to say it.
Yeah. It's because of the fact that the story takes place over the course of 1 year minus 1 week, and it's over 2 because the main character is half of a person.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So
but that was when it started to fall apart for me. Like my friends talked to me about it. Was like,
that's
okay,
when
so
it's a spin-off of a slight point of the first game. There's a small 5-minute gameplay part of it, and that game spun off of that 5 minutes that only exists for a single narrative purpose.
Because
it's 3 hours of cutscenes in the HD collection. So
well, the game played like shit, so that's good.
One of my best friends was really into this game, and like it was around that time when he started talking to me about it, and I was like, dude, like I'm gonna be honest with you, I'll listen to you talk about the dream you had last night before I'll listen to you talk to me about Kingdom Hearts.
this sounds like a dream.
It's like, so crazy. He's just like telling me about, okay, so then when they're inside, he switches bodies, but not really. He switches bodies with the body from the past, but he still has the same powers, but he's locked the body in a frozen state. I'm like, dude, I cannot.
That's weird. That's a good point, because like just like in a dream, most of that stuff doesn't matter. It's just like Pulp said, like it's just good versus evil, and there's like a lightsaber. Why the fuck do we have to listen about changing bodies and all that stuff?
2 brings real lightsabers into it.
Okay. And what's Dream Drop Distance? That's a 3DS one, right?
That is the one that takes place. That's supposed to be like the setup for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
It catches up all the backstory to the current and sets up for it. And it literally is you just playing as the main character of the series, and then randomly the timer will run out and you switch to the secondary character, and it literally doesn't change anything. It's just that it's like switching cosmetics, just at random points. It doesn't even do like the switch to night from Castlevania 2 where it changes things. Just I'm like, I'm Riku now. Cool. My moves changed, and then I still swing on a light pole for all my attacks because you're invincible while you do it. Why would you not just spam that?
Wait, why? So I was under the impression, and don't spoil this in case I'm getting somewhere with this. I was under the impression that Riku would just turn out to be evil all along, but you're telling me you play as him later?
Yes, you do play as him later. Yeah.
Okay, because he looks like his character design just screams evil. He has like silver hair and is always glaring at people. Like that just like foreshadows evil.
Without spoiling things, he does the classic anime heel turn.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I figured.
We talked about Kingdom Hearts a little bit. All of your complaints, please forward to Merve at gamescast.com.
Yeah, do not at us.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like
that's not a real email address.
Yeah, we sound a little bit negative on it, and I know people love the shit out of those games.
Yeah, I think the thing is, when we talk about changing tastes in games and like where we are, you can also kind of notice communities have changing tastes. Like there was a time where Kingdom Hearts and this style of stuff was wildly popular. I mean, people were really into this, and like I think there definitely was some changing taste within the community itself, where I don't think even people who were diehard fans are liking at least the where the story's going on Kingdom Hearts anymore. My friends who were into it right now, I think they're just kind of bored with it. Like they just take the craziness so they can play the Toy Story stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just hours of stuff that they don't want to skip because they're invested in it. But honestly, I don't even think they're as into it as they were, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
So they just want to get to the good shit. Like, give me that Toy Story shit.
This like super, the super invested kind of like crossover, super complicated story appeals to kind of. This is gonna sound kind of terrible. It appeals to younger people who have the time to invest in this sort of stuff. And when you grow up and you have a family or whatever, but you're still into this stuff, like you still like the idea. It's not like you've matured out of it, but you don't have time to worry about all this auxiliary bullshit. It becomes less appealing.
I also,
that's my guess.
I also think that like a lot of the appeal, and I mean commercial or even artistic, of crossovers is the idea of the different tastes that you put together, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and I think perhaps part of the issue with Kingdom Hearts is that it takes two tastes that are not necessarily like impossible to connect or or mutually exclusive. But like the fun, like Disney is this massively popular brand. It's got a lot of these characters who are very soft and friendly, and then you're kind of mixing that with this incredibly convoluted like video game narrative based on like the worst cliches of Japanese RPGs. And it seems like they kind of, it's almost like syncretic. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know, like it doesn't really seem like the two boost each other up, and more that they just sort of like exist in the same space and kind of crowd each other out.
Yeah, it doesn't seem coherent. It doesn't seem coherent, the whole game.
But to me that's kind of the appeal. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah, as I said, like Goofy saying insane shit, like it's kind of weird, and I don't know.
It's almost appealing to me on almost a meta level that this massive corporation that tightly controls its brand allowed Squeenix to just fuck around in this world and add a bunch of anime boys to it.
Yeah,
like that to me is hilarious.
I
bet
amazing. I bet you though it's highly controlled. Like they have, like yeah.
In the first game, Disney had a stipulation that Mickey Mouse could only appear in 2 scenes and have 1 line of dialogue between the 2 scenes.
Cool.
But so
why?
Yeah,
that's
like
they don't give a
funny
fuck
thing about
Donald.
Disney, though.
They don't give a fuck about that duck. But once the mouse comes out, all bets are off.
It's weird what they controlled and what they didn't. Like they're very specific about like, you know, you can only use this much of our most iconic characters, but things like they just did not give a shit about how much you fucked around with Hercules or Alice in Wonderland or any of these other properties. They're just like, yeah, have fun, go mad, do whatever the fuck you want. They gave an impressive amount of freedom.
Yeah, they let Donald Duck's hat have 3 zippers.
You know, that's 3 too many zippers for my taste for hats. But go nuts, Donald.
I don't know how much this ties into Kingdom Hearts, but I think where my tastes have mostly changed is I couldn't stop playing like competitive shooters like in my 20s, you know, like it was like all I ever wanted to do was, you know, get online and just, you know, frag some noobs or whatever. But you start to get old, you start to lose that like not just like the physical abilities like the aim and, you know, the twitch and everything, but it kind of gets bored. And now I'm starting to get more into competitive stuff, you know. I think that's where my tastes have changed a lot. I mean, even in like StarCraft now, I play the co-op mode more than I play the versus mode. And I'm starting to see that kind of come around too for a lot of people. I think more and more people are getting more into co-op gameplay rather than competitive. And competitive seems to be kind of phasing out. So I wonder...
That's been the trend. Like you see more of these like horde modes and stuff like that instead of PvP being introduced into
even
games.
Competitive games are based on teams that you have to cooperate.
Yeah,
like Overwatch
or like Rainbow Six Siege or many other games. Like
you're starting to see like modes that take advantage of the fact that people just don't want to be that 1v1, you know, guy in an arena, and you got something like Lawbreakers that try to bring it back, and people are like, "Nah, I'm good."
I think people got tired of a 12-year-old schooling a bunch of people who have a fucking life.
Yeah.
And that's sort of been the trend. Is that now the gaming audience is
and he is testing me.
Yeah, now he's yelling racial slurs on my behalf.
Yeah.
No, like the thing about like the games industry is that now we're catering to an audience that grew up with games, that now has, you know, jobs, families, etc., and they don't have the time to like get good or whatever, so they want to just relax with friends. You know, they want a more straightforward story. Like these is how games are catering now to adults.
They also want stories that are less demented. Like there's no Kratos having like 3-ways anymore.
So I want to say something.
Yeah, like Kratos has a kid, and people loved the God of War reboot.
You know what? I mostly it's not about the time commitment for me, because sure I can play a very long game, but I just have less patience for game mechanics. Like I played the shit out of The Longest Journey back in the day. I cannot imagine a world where I play through The Longest Journey again today. like with its insane puzzles and just like long-winded road to wherever it's going.
Like the fucking duck puzzle.
Jesus Christ.
Who's gonna put up with that?
Like the world has evolved way beyond that.
And I think where I'm getting, and even though that battle royales are very, very popular, what you get in most battle royales is you hit a reset every match, right? It's just like, so you can get to the point where you do get good if you want to play a competitive game, where you can just learn, the little micro mechanics of each game and get good at that in portions, right? So, but it's not like it used to be where you play remember like how Call of Duty had all these streaks and unlocks and stuff like that. I think what we're seeing is people moving away from that because it's not fun for me to drop into a game with people who are level 50 billion and can kill me with this gun that I've never even seen before and then drop a nuke on the whole match because they've just played that much. So I think it's interesting to see that you're seeing way, way less of these true competitive games. And Battle Royale is a competitive mode, but it's kind of in a weird spot for me where it's not like it's just like, how like when you die in like, let's say like Halo back in the day, like it felt very personal. That guy found me. Like it seems weirdly impersonal in Battle Royales, right? Like somebody just happens to be in the area that you're in and you guys got to fight it out. But it's not like, you're tight in this map and that was the only thing that could have happened. So, I think competitive to me kind of going away is when I'm kind of coinciding at the same time.
It's weird. It's kind of weird story that we came from like competitive games being highly popular to like survival based games some of the time, or like people are trying to trust each other but you're not fully sure, and then now we're playing competitive games where you have to trust your teammates. It's weird.
I think maybe a lot of that is that kind of like, I don't want to really go it alone, and or this battle royale thing speaks to me because I'm kind of trapped. It's almost like you're playing a shooter in a horror game.
Also, you can totally play it solo, and you can totally play it with a couple of friends, and it's like all inclusive. Like
very flexible.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with it, and it helps to like. I know some people have like, I personally don't. I sometimes play with my brother, and that's it. But some people have like 5 people that they play with, and that's crazy to me. But they do that.
The only time I ever play those kinds of games is with my old college buddies. We have an occasional gaming crew every few months. We get together and we play one of these games for a couple of hours, and we use it as like Skype with guns.
Right.
And like that's what it is for me. So I like having that flexibility of being able to sort of play this game by myself and practice a little bit on my own time, and then get together with my buddies. And it doesn't matter if I suck, but I don't want to suck so much that I don't know what I'm doing.
For me, actually, first I just want to mention this. I know because we moved beyond, but I do want to just point out that Kingdom Hearts, Square Enix released a game called The Story So Far, which was a compilation package. It was released only in North America, and B, includes the following games, because I think, Merve, you might appreciate the titles.
Oh, I bought it recently, so I know the title. You can tell the audience anyway.
Go on.
So basically, go on to just my thing about how my tastes have changed, or... Yeah, I'll do that.
You can say the titles of the games in there.
Okay.
Let the audience know.
I am curious. I'm from Europe. I never heard of it.
So the titles of the game are Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix, which is one game. Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts 158 over 2 days, Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance HD, Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep / A Fragmentary Passage, and Kingdom Hearts X Black Cover, which is apparently a movie.
You know what I like most?
I think it's not even X. I think it's actually the Greek letter Chi, which makes it even worse.
Kingdom Hearts Final Chapter Prologue. What? I don't know why this is the most ridiculous one to me.
Also to point out, the Kingdom Hearts like 1.5, 2.5, like those are the names of the overarching collections that contain those games. It is like, this is the kind of shit that I would have eaten up when I was a kid. I was like, oh yeah, this shit is so complex and deep, and now I'm just like, what the fuck are these names?
That's a really good. Yeah, that's a really good point. I wonder if it just kind of felt important and deep, and like it was all going to come together. And I think a lot of people are still waiting and hoping it does, but maybe it's like Lost. And you're like, forget it. It's just going to end up being.
I mean, it's complicated. It's not complex. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
But
so I think the overarching kind of theme here is when we were younger, we kind of ate up these more complex things, these more competitive things. But now when we're older and we have more responsibilities, you just kind of want to relax with games. We don't want games to. It's not like we don't want games to be cerebral, but we don't want them to. We don't want to put any effort into the bullshit. We just want to enjoy and relax with games.
For me, the big thing I was thinking of is the fact that so it's not like I don't is that when I was younger, I had a little more free time, so I'd play games for many hour-long sessions. And it's not like I don't do this now, because that's what I did when Breath of the Wild came out, that's what I did when Mario Odyssey came out. But I do think it's really important on a personal level for me to have to make sure that I can take breaks, so that I don't feel like I have to just keep playing for hours on end to just get from point A to point B. And I think the games that do that, say Resident Evil 6, are ones that just have no interest for me anymore. Like games where you can't pause. I'm just that's just.
Oh yeah, if a game doesn't have a pause feature, I'm out. That's why I can't play Dark Souls. I'm never gonna play it because I need to pause my games.
On
sometimes.
the other hand, from all of what we've said, though, Undertale had a lot of weird abstract story bullshit under the scenes, and people were really digging into it, and there was a lot of stuff that people really dug into, hours and hours of decoding shit, and people did love that.
I think the reason for that is that in Undertale, that's all something you don't need to do. You don't for instance, all you need to know about Undertale is you're a person, you're stuck in this sort of caverns, there are monsters are scared of people, and
you don't need to kill it.
Yeah,
exactly.
the story, the main story doesn't go into that any of that bullshit. So you play through the game, it's like if Kingdom Hearts had a main story that just goes through the Disney things and leaves out all of the anime stuff, and once you get into the crazy I don't know, ARG or whatever, you
that's
figure
the anime
out
stuff?
Yeah, that's the anime stuff.
It would be like if you fought I forget his name, the ostensible final boss of Undertale, and he was just oh yes, you now have
Chloe?
No.
Azrael?
I mean
Azrael.
Yeah, Azrael. I
think
Azrael.
Where basically you fight him and he's just you are the last of the heart of the various hearts. Oh, Undertale also has heart imagery.
Yep.
And you are here, and this is how all of that made sense. If you just got an info dump about that and then you had to fight him.
Yeah. You got even better if you got info dump every 15 minutes throughout the game. Somebody came out and through the portal or some shit, and then an exposition and PowerPoint presentation. And we're going back to the PowerPoint presentations, aren't we? It's just it's a constant in Japanese and in Western developed video games.
It
can't get away from it.
Yeah. I like a lot of the same genres I liked when I was younger. I still like platformers, and I like light RPGs and kind of action games that are accessible, action adventure games. But it's a lot of overwhelming game design, a lot of open worlds, just don't interest me anymore, because it's too tiring, and it just feels like it's extraneous and unneeded, and I just want to kind of get to the meat of what the game is.
Yeah, I played 13 hours of Red Dead Redemption 2, and I don't want to play anymore. I've not played for months now.
Completely understandable.
Yeah.
All right, so is there anything else you guys want to mention about our changing game tastes before we call this podcast to a close?
I do.
Okay,
so
go ahead, Pulp.
I didn't guess this, but I think God of War itself is probably the best indicator of how my tastes have changed.
Yeah.
Because God of War, the first three, are the most juvenile thing I can think of. They're overly violent. They're sexual for no damn reason. You have threesomes just to show how badass the character is.
Yeah.
And then the new one comes out. It's like, we're going to be introspective. We're going to tell an actual story. It's going to have some depth, some character growth. And by the end, you're just like, okay, I want to actually play a sequel to God of War. I didn't think that happened in my age.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say, man, I wish we went back to the threesome shit.
I really want the really bad gender politics, and the fact that you have to press down on the control sticks to gouge out Poseidon's eyes, and that's an actual QuickTime event.
Yeah, I think sex mini games also had like QuickTime events.
You have like time your like circle with like. It couldn't show anything, so you just hear noises and like you're supposed to time the circle with like a thrust or something, but all you hear.
So it's like a really shitty rhythm game.
It just sounded like he was taking a really bad dump half the time. Anyhow, so you're just like, this isn't sexy.
There's
I remember it was in Fahrenheit also. I remember a sex mini.
Yeah, was it like press square to pinch?
Yes,
I don't remember.
There's also a part where there's also a sequence in the first game, and actually there's a sequence in each of the mainline God of War games and probably the original spin-offs before the reboot, where basically there's like a guy in a cage, and you have to basically force the cage onto a platform and then literally burn him alive in order to pass a puzzle. And that's like an actual. It's really.
It was like in most of the games. I never could understand why.
In one thing, you take a little girl and you throw her inside a gear to open a door.
Yeah, I also that happened.
That seems excessive. And these are the kinds of things that like it's funny that like the original Portal satirizes this sort of stuff with the whole companion cube killing puzzle, and then the Swapper makes an entire game out of the idea that killing things to solve puzzles is horrifying.
Man, Swapper was so good. Jesus, that game was great.
I stopped playing it because it was too complicated and I'm not good at puzzles, but it was really good.
I had to look up on YouTube how to solve a couple of puzzles, but the ending was worth it. It was a really cool thing.
But it's just this incredibly nasty, cynical, like misogynist, like just misanthropic experience. Like, I don't know if there's any better explanation of like reboot God of War to original God of War, to the fact that in the original you have super edgy fishhooks and you have like super edgy music as you go around like ripping off people's limbs with these fishhooks, and now he's just, Kratos is older, he's tired, he doesn't want to like really involve himself in this, so he just has an axe.
Yeah,
I do like how in God of War the remake, the one that just came out, they don't like pretend it's a reboot or anything. They go, no, the first three happened. Yeah. And we're actually going to just straight up say it was childish, and Kratos is one of the worst people ever playing games just because he is a monster. And they do not sidestep it or anything. They go, yeah, he's terrible. He knows he's terrible. And his son is the only decent person you are going to meet in the game.
Yeah, and he's also very tired of being terrible.
Yeah, I think that if the new God of War wanted to be a game about trying to be less shitty, like if it wanted to be a game that's like less tied to all of this like grossness and bullshit, and I think the only way it could have fully pulled that off is if it actually kept old Kratos so that it could show we're changing this.
Yeah.
And to be fair, from what I've heard, it succeeded on that front, which is kind of remarkable.
It's pretty good. It has a little bit of problems here and there, but mostly it's a good story.
Yeah, so, these things do evolve, and I think they do track how people's tastes change and how people mature with the games they play. It's nice when a series matures with its audience.
One thing that I also think is important is, like, it's important to remember that God of War was a massive project. Like, Sony put a ton of money behind it. They had a huge American studio doing it. Like, that was the blockbuster, one of the blockbusters of the era.
Yeah.
And
Sony Santa Monica was on it, right?
Yes, that was kind of their most iconic project. Kratos is basically their mascot, and it and I think for all of us here have complained a lot, including a bit on this very podcast, about like the proliferation of bad or bloated or poor video game design from like blockbuster studios, and how we've kind of lost some interest in that, if not all our interest. And sometimes though it works the other way. Like I think it deserves some commendation for for actively like throwing out those like worst devils of its nature.
Yeah, like I this has been sort of a common theme with me, is that I feel like game studios have by and large done an okay job of filtering out stuff that hasn't worked from games past.
I would argue that Ubisoft was very, very slow at doing that, and kind of
but that's fair.
Buried itself under.
But like I think that the point I want to make here is that it's almost as if the games industry itself, as in like game development, has matured in a way that its marketing hasn't caught up with yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like the standard example I like to give is like the Tomb Raider reboot, which actually did kind of address a lot of like this. There's like this controversial scene in the trailer where it looks like there's a sexual assault that's about to take place, and that's not at all how it plays like in the game. But the way the trailer is cut, it looks like it's using the threat of rape to sell the game, which is really bizarre.
Yeah.
And that's not at all how it plays in the game itself. And it's weird that like marketers would think this would sell a game, but it's not at all how the game actually plays.
Very creepy too. Like what the fuck? It's
creepy, like the way the trailer is, and it's just like, why would you think this sells a game to me? So that's like one example, and you see this kind of over and over again, like especially in years past before these issues started coming to the forefront. You'd see things like what was it, like Dante's Inferno tried to sell itself with like a sex party and shit like that.
Also unbaptized babies, and you fight them. Yes, Dante's Inferno was all kinds of stupid.
And Dead Space 2 had the like armies of baby monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Dead Space is a really good example where the game isn't at all like this, but it tried to sell itself as your mom hates Dead Space.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus, that video.
Why do marketers think this is a good idea? Like,
I don't think a good game. You don't have to do this. It was a good game. You don't have to sell it like this.
I think like marketing is finally starting to move away from shit like this and kind of catch up to the maturity of its audience.
It's weird because it's like
game development got there faster.
Yeah,
game development got there much faster.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like 90s marketing. I didn't expect it to even appear in like it seemed like 2 decades like late.
I mean, we're joking now, but Mortal Kombat NetherRealm just released a trailer of parents acting horrified at Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah.
Like that literally came out.
How does this doesn't work anymore? We've all kind of decided that. I mean, okay, I'm not going to say there's a consensus about violent video games.
Parents are playing these games now. That's the reality.
But it's like this is what like a mom or dad plays.
Yeah.
While their kids are in bed, like they know
what the fuck, like
they have a degree of media literacy now, and like pretending that media literacy doesn't exist, I think it does a disservice to the game's audience. Like they know this shit is out there.
Yeah.
Like these ads don't work anymore.
It's a lack of respect to the audience, and as much as we've mocked the audiences for bad games or the bad audiences for good games, like I think that you create the audiences you present, and like this is just all an evolution of what is it? Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah, like it feels like marketing is still caught in this. They're still trying to sell games to like
12-year-olds,
edgy teenagers.
Yeah, edgy
but that's
teenagers,
not the biggest gaming audience anymore. The biggest gaming audience is men and women aged 18 to 35. Like those are the people buying games en masse. So like I don't know, if you're trying to sell games to like some 31-year-old woman with a 2-year-old at home, that's not what's going to appeal to her. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. I don't want to speak for that person because I'm not that person.
It's statistically less likely.
Yeah, it's not like you don't want to sell a game to her being like, your mom is going to hate this. I'm like no.
My 80-year-old mom.
Your mom is
I
going to be
bet
angry at the
not.
way that you're parenting her grandkid, not the fact that you're playing a game with blood and gore in it. You know?
Yeah, or alternatively that you are, but it's also, you know, it's accessible, or like
you're like, I have my own kid at home. I don't care what my mom thinks about this game. You know, I haven't lived with her for 10 years. Like, I don't understand what marketers are thinking. There's no edge to marketing, to like upselling the violence.
You know, marketers don't have any idea how to sell video games. I think
it's a bit also kind of feels a lot like the publisher wars for comics, or like the console wars. It's like this very. It's about trying to create this weird level of like the most of everything, the strongest brand.
Yeah, but like I understand that like consoles sell themselves on like the most power or whatever, and like let's be real. Part of why PS4 initially outsold the Xbox One was on power, right? Like, I get that.
Yeah, but these
it's just that
commercials are like, ooh, it's too hot. You cannot even, like, don't show it to grown-ups because it's, like, way too edgy. Like, that's not anything. That's like...
Like, I understand trying to sell something on being the best at what it does.
Yeah.
But nobody's really looking for what's the best at violence anymore, because so many violent video games are out there now. We're kind of desensitized to the idea that shit can get violent. Like, you know, I play a violent video game. I don't flinch when I see some enemy get his head cut off and blood spurt everywhere, because I've seen this a dozen times.
Yeah, but but then we see one boob and we're like, whoa, censor this shit right now.
But like I've seen dozens of boobs in video games. I don't care that video games have boobs anymore. Like any M-rated game is going to show me a boob now.
Probably, you know, people would be more freaked out in, like, I don't know, in like infomercials or whatever at like nudity than violence.
Does anybody?
Yeah, why would they sell it on that? Like, oh, your mom's not gonna like the fact that they're swinging dicks in this game.
This is pornography. Your mom wouldn't like you watching pornography.
Does anybody remember the game BMX XXX and how that was marketed?
I remember.
I don't remember this game, and there's probably a good reason why I don't.
It is a game where you played as strippers naked, and it was a BMX game like a Tony Hawk game, and the entire marketing was just, there's boobies in this game, and all of our advertisement barely covers up boobies, and look, it's all boobies. And, you know, even as, like, when I was a teenager and that came out, I'm like, this is pandering to the level of stupid. It was just over-marketed, and if you really want to sell a game on a controversy, I still think that would probably be the best way to do it nowadays. Is that or social?
I don't even know if that would work anymore, because like a lot of these like edgy like adult games sold in an era where
internet access,
you know, you had a 56K modem and it would take forever to like download one nude image. But now you can just give like super fast internet and there's Pornhub. And you can just watch whatever the fuck kind of porn you want
now you
in
don't
like
even
30
have to
seconds.
Look for it. They are looking for you.
I think it still works, but only slightly, and it's not going to be the thing that fully sells a game.
I think it'd play very well in more conservative areas of the country.
Yeah.
He has an outrageous, like
there's...
the Bible Belt. If you hand him like right after Sunday church with it, like just have a dude stand outside the church with like an advertisement for it, you could get some controversy and start gaining some buzz that way.
I mean, I think there's almost kind of a forbidden fruit aspect to it. Like, porn is porn and you know what you're getting into. But the idea of seeing something titillating in a place where you're not supposed to see it, to some people is alluring. Yeah. And I kind of get that. But I'm wondering if we've almost become desensitized to it in this era where it's just so easy to see this stuff that it doesn't matter anymore.
It's also just...
Maybe we haven't.
It's also, and I think this is something a lot of advertisers and to a lesser extent developers kind of ignore, which is the fact that, like, statistically, we don't live alone. Like, you know, I moved back in with my parents a few years ago. Like, a lot of people have kids or have parents or grandparents they take care of. And, like, I love Bayonetta, but I'm a little bit uncomfortable if, say, someone walks in on me playing Bayonetta, especially if that person is, say, one of my parents.
Oh yeah, like I live by myself now, but when I lived with roommates, I was embarrassed every time I was playing, say, Yakuza 0, and there's like the hostess minigame, and it's not even sexual. It's just, how do I explain Japanese hostess clubs to my roommates?
Yeah.
You don't. That's the answer.
I'm just like, one of my buddies he was doing like a master's in real estate. And the way I explain it to them is, this is real estate, the video game.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, this is super cool now. But like, other than that, how do you explain it to a random person?
When I was showing my parents Do Ra Ra Ra, the anime, I had to explain to my parents what yaoi was.
Oh boy. Oh,
I'm not-
boy.
Nowadays, I'm like zero. Like when I was younger, I would have embarrassment.
Let me be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Yeah.
I went to see. I made the mistake of going to see Avenue Q with my parents. So I've crossed that bridge. Now, if my parents ask me anything, I just explain it to them, and I get a kick out of seeing their horrified face because I'm like, I'm an adult now.
Sure.
You know, I know all this shit. There's no point in
I
hiding
had to
it from
explain
you.
furries to my dad because he was watching something in the hospital that was talking about it. He's like, "What's a furry?" I'm like, "Turn off the TV. This is going to be a 2-hour conversation because it's going to get weird."
Yeah.
See, I don't even consider furries weird. I'm just like, whatever. Let
Conservative
him have fun.
old man.
Yeah, it is slightly difficult to explain for someone who's not necessarily as comfortable with that or familiar with that. But it's still, the point is like it. And I mean, like, living alone isn't just about like content. It's about like mechanics and systems. That means like if your kid or your like parent or your significant other has an issue, you got to pause that game and come and see them. If you're like it's a lot of why Nintendo was working with the Wii U, which obviously wasn't a success, but like their idea was that there are enough people living together that, you know, one person shouldn't dominate the television, because that's what games do. They dominate the television. So the Wii U, and then later, much more successfully, the Switch, was based on that idea. It was based on the idea that like people could play, and also it wouldn't be like controlled by just one person, or a player wouldn't be like limited.
Yeah, but that idea.
And that's why you see even the more TV-based consoles like the Xbox One, PS4. Now you can just pause your game whenever.
Yeah, but that idea
just,
fizzles out when everybody has like 20 screens all over the apartment, which, you know, you have tablets and laptops and you watch.
Yeah, but like you can't watch like the Super Bowl, say, which is happening today, on like your laptop. I mean, you probably can if you hook it up properly, but like
if you want,
nobody wants to watch Super Bowl on their laptop.
Exactly.
They want to watch on the big screen.
I suppose, but it's like more limited than in the past. Like in the past,
it's more limited, but it's still there, and I think it's still important that like game designers are having to start like considering the fact that, you know, you remember with the PS4, and I feel like every other time I'm on here I reference this, but like when the PS4 is announced and they were like, the player is the real person, it's all about the player. Like that doesn't really play anymore. Like it's just not really feasible for people to do that anymore. And even when they're younger, it is.
You know, yeah, I guess, but I don't. I live alone. I know. For some time, I haven't been had like those kind of issues. But whenever somebody calls me, I need to pause the game. And whenever I was playing Dark Souls, that was a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, I was getting pummeled to death by a big monster or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I live in an apartment, and it's on the ground floor. And if my window is open, it's right by the main walkway. During the day, you gotta bet I actually pay attention to what video game I'm playing. I'm like, yeah, because there's little kids that walk by.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I can't play this. I couldn't play God of War during the day because little kid walking by shouldn't see me rip a werewolf in half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't play this pornography game. I can't play Dead or Alive. Nothing is left.
Yeah, I think that like never underestimate the power of shame. For when it comes to experiencing any product.
I just don't want my neighbors to yell at me for.
I still feel kind of awkward playing Soul Calibur 6 because like Ivy doesn't wear a lot of clothes and
Compared to other games in Soul Calibur.
Yeah, but like it's kind of goofy. Like it's not like teenagers, like a representation of teenagers' imagination of how women would be fighting, like in area-based combat, like skimpy clothing and like clothes torn in all the like sexy places and like a lot of boob jiggle, and I'm like, oh god, this is the dumbest shit.
Dead Alive was like that a lot too, and it's evolving. It's toning down sex appeal.
Oh yeah, like Mortal Kombat, like between 9 and 10, they like really like got rid of like a lot of the stupid boob jiggle and all of that. Like it's surprising how much like they said like, yep, now it's more like realistic body builds for women, and yeah, we're not going to go into that anymore.
Yeah,
it's been like it's weird. It's almost to the point where now it's jarring to see that sort of stuff in a mainstream video game.
Yeah.
Like the example I like to bring it back to Xenoblade was Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has like all this like this old school kind of like, you know, huge chested boob jiggle kind of nonsense going on, and it so doesn't fit with the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Like even to the point where like the writing doesn't support it, even the way the cutscenes are directed doesn't support it. It's just it's so bizarre and jarring that this like the character design is so out of place compared to the rest of the game. Like this kind of stuff just doesn't play as normal anymore.
Yeah. And I think a lot of, and like the thing is that really, if we're going by like probable statistics, even when that shit reached its peak, in the 6th generation, like you still had a lot of people. Most of the audience was moving to become like into adulthood. Like, and people still like did that for years.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is that a lot of the conversations about these things only really started happening, I'd say, in the early 2010s when we started, at least in the West, having these kinds of conversations about mostly women and how their characters are designed and representation and all those things. Not that these conversations didn't happen before, it's just that they came to the forefront of games media later. Yeah,
we didn't really have a platform for people to discuss this, partially because the lack of internet services, like the lack of just availability on the internet, and partially because a lot of the people controlling the conversation didn't matter. Usually when people like talked about this, it was either treating it as exciting and sexy and titillating, or it was people kind of lightly making fun of it. Like spaces to like more seriously criticize them hadn't really been developed or fully exploited at the time.
And like I do have to admit my own bias here. I'm more in the former camp of making fun of it because I think it's just silly, because it's not really something that affects me, and it is silly. But I'm glad we're having this more serious conversations now.
I think it's also very dependent, not just on who you are, but on the work itself. Like, I think there's definitely a difference between, say, Ivy in any of the Soul Calibur games, and I actually, while you were talking science, I looked up her costume in 6, and hoo boy, that's not good.
It's pretty bad. It's
not
bad.
Great. But like that's I think different from, say, like in the Tomb Raider reboots, like I do think it doesn't fetishize like the sexual assault, but it definitely fetishizes like Lara being impaled again and again, or like decapitated.
Yeah, I suppose, but
I don't know.
If it would be a guy, you wouldn't think that though.
Well, I still would. I just wouldn't think of it as strongly. Like it. I do think that it's. I do think that, you know, like we're maybe in a position where we don't really want. I don't want to say
I would agree that it fetishizes violence, like violence overall, but I'm not sure how much it like exploits
on a
like,
gender.
I don't know. Like I would say, and again, this is just my perspective. The like death scenes in I've only played the first Tomb Raider reboot. Don't really play as sexual to me, but it's just not really on my radar as something that I would find titillating in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily sexually fetishized.
Okay.
They're more like fetishized in general.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I agree 100%.
Like I can sort of see that.
Yeah. But like, Mortal Kombat fetishizes violence a whole lot, and like, that's
But it's also that's also weird too because it's in a position that's just so like abundantly goofy in those early installments.
Yeah. In Lara
Yeah.
Croft, it was more visceral and
The reason I get a little bit, I find this whole thing a little bit dicey because it has sort of been conflated with a conversation about sexualization, and especially if they say things like, "Oh, Lara's grunt sounds sexual," and to me that echoes kind of. This is going to be a weird analogy. It echoes the conversations about like women's tennis where they're like, oh, these ladies sound like they're making sexual grunts when they hit shots. And I'm just like, no, you're just saying that because you haven't watched a lot of women play sports.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing sexual about women hitting a ball with a racket.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe there is to you.
It's weird.
If there is, all the more power to you.
It's
but-
weird hearing people say that. Like, no, she's just like in pain and grunting and
Like she's grunting because she's exerting.
Yeah, no.
Like,
It's. I mean,
watch some women's sports.
but I think in general the general thing is just that like there is I think developers are for the most part trying to explore material sexual material material when it comes to violence, just things that are a little bit embarrassing or a little bit like difficult to stomach in a way that is maybe more sensitive. And it's starting, though it's very slow, but I think it's starting to get to like where films were and like kind of to the point where basically people were like, a lot of people are going to watch these movies. We need to develop them in a way under the assumption that a lot of people will watch them because we want this to sell and we want to be accessible.
Yeah,
And
it's not only a demographic made up entirely of white teenager males.
Yeah, exactly. Like
The Michael Bay.
Yeah, like accessibility doesn't just mean like mechanics, and it doesn't just mean like a lack of overt bigotry or hatefulness. I think it also just means like maybe not making a game where the villain clones himself 13 times and then time travels back to possess himself and then possess another guy who might be the reincarnation of God.
Oh, are you talking about God of War? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Actually, no, I was talking about something
I think he's. I think he's talking about Tetris.
Oh,
The
Tetris,
Tetris reboot
okay.
is really wild,
All right.
guys.
each block gets snorted.
There's 7 different kinds of blocks. There's 7 Horcruxes.
Yeah.
I think it fits.
Yeah, and you know the boy. Yep.
Yeah.
Quoting.
Wait, are there 7 different kinds of blocks? I don't actually know. How
Yeah,
Tetris
there's
works.
S to the left, S to the right, L to the left, L to the right, and
Square,
Straight line.
like the prong thingy, and then there's straight.
yeah. And
Okay, yeah.
Sorry,
That's
just
7 blocks.
Just saying, Norta Boy reminded me. Whoever listens, you must watch the Polygon video explaining the Kingdom Hearts move.
spoiler
Video
alert,
game.
science. I actually put the link into that in the chat.
Oh,
so
yeah,
hopefully...
I saw it.
So we're gonna dump this in the link dump so
Yeah.
you guys can watch
It's really good though.
Yeah,
Polygon explain the story
really good.
of.
Of
Polygon is now apparently a single person,
Yeah.
and they explain things.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Kingdom Hearts, definitely a thing after many years. Let's make.
You know what? They should have a Porygon explain things series where it's just a Porygon explain things to you. Except for Porygons can't talk.
I assume it's a Pokemon.
so it'd just be like.
Is it a Pokemon thing?
yeah, Porygon, the Pokemon.
Okay, Porygon the Pokemon. All right.
Wait, you don't know that Porygon's a Pokemon?
I have no
Wait.
idea.
Porygon is one of the weirder Gen 1 Pokemon because it was apparently designed by...
I remember. It's a Gen 1. Gen 1 I remember because Gen 1 I played. Yep.
Yeah, Porygon is weird because. Sorry, you were saying.
Because basically its gimmick is that there's like man-made Pokemon in the world of Pokemon, which is very weird just as a concept on its own. Because there's some where it's like a big deal, like with Mewtwo, and then there's others where it's just like, oh, whatever. Like like we've polluted so much that Grimer and Coughing literally came out of like grunge. But Porygon exists apparently solely in a digital space, except when you use it in the game where it comes out into the real world.
It's like the weird low polygon looking model of a Pokemon,
Yeah,
right?
it's like the
okay,
little
I
dot.
remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Porygon should explain more things.
Sure.
That's where I'm at right now.
I like Coughing. He's a cool Pokemon.
He doesn't afraid of anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I miss memes.
Do you know?
I don't.
We're actually at one point going to have a segment on this podcast by fellow community member Admirax called Admirax Hates Memes. And all she was going to do is just complain for 10 minutes about a meme that she hated. But that never came to fruition for whatever reason. So if anybody else wants to take up the blank person hates memes mantle, there is a spot.
Generally hate memes.
Here's me and memes. I am the guy who's looking at the back of the girl who is not memes, and then the third girl is memes.
Yep.
No, I hate memes.
Okay. I like memes, but that's because I was raised by the internet. The internet is my god and my parent.
I am a meme.
That you are.
Yep.
I don't know how you are, but you are.
I am a literal, like a physical embodiment of a meme. So I have to live.
You are an oblong red guy who is wider than he is tall.
Yep. So that's my
does fit.
Also, much like most memes, you do believe that science is bad.
Exactly. That's my curse.
You're the anti-vaxxer minion meme.
Yep,
You're a minion saying, how can climate change be real if it's so cold today?
Yeah, exactly. I'm both an anti-vaxxer and like a climate change denier and all the most heinous shit.
He has some very hostile and close-minded views regarding sexism in video games.
Also that. Yeah, I'm a Facebook meme basically.
What does the Earth look like to you?
It's a flat plane. It's flat as like a sheet of paper basically.
I mean, I've always thought it was a disc.
No.
Sitting on the back of four elephants, sitting on the back of a large turtle.
It's a sheet of paper. Just horrible person. Disc. Who believes in discs anymore? It's 21st century. It's a sheet of paper.
A circular sheet of paper?
No, it's a square, man.
It's a square.
A square Enix.
I mean, if you told me that in Kingdom Hearts, the world was a square sheet of paper and some animator drew on it and that's how the Disney worlds came to life, I would believe it.
That's where actually that's going to be the end of Kingdom Hearts 4, where it turns out they're all in Duck Amuck and it's actually a Disney and Looney Tunes crossover.
I don't think Kingdom Hearts 4 will ever come out, to be honest.
You will
like
regret those words in 40 years when Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out.
Nomura will be on another planet in the ravages of climate change in like a robot body, and he'll still be making Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, and Donald will be cyborg.
We'll be playing it on like fucking
final
consoles.
Chapter of the start of the
It will have a crossover with Star Trek.
It'll be much like Pirates of the Caribbean 6. The subtitle will be Kingdom Hearts 4, The Haunted Crow's Nest, or something. Who gives a crap?
And Jean-Luc Picard will be crossing over with.
Yo, Disney fucking owns The Simpsons now. There's going to be like a Bart Simpson world.
I never want. Listen, I wanted to play Kingdom Hearts at one point, but then I just didn't. I still think it's an interesting idea.
And buy the entire story so
Disney.
far collection.
I really want to play the story so far, but only when it gets like $5 because this is a franchise.
I don't have the time for it, Wolfman. I just don't.
No, I know. No, you don't. A lot of us don't.
Yeah.
All of us don't. But like for me, I kind of want to try this series because it is so intensely not for me. And not something I would ever want to play, that it almost is coming back around to being kind of exciting in the way watching the Oogie Loves or United Passions recently was exciting.
Mm-hmm. I get it. It's like watching curling once couple of years on the Winter Olympics.
As a Canadian, I do have to defend the noble sport of curling.
And then you curl a boy.
Yeah, I mean, as a Canadian, I do have to defend the noble sport of curling.
It's actually in Kingdom Hearts that they throw Sora on the ice, and two people, Goofy and Donald, actually have brooms, and they have to like polish the ice in front of Sora so he can slide into place quicker.
No, but like Wolfman's point about how you want to play games that are so not your style is that actually kind of rings true for me, because I don't really have any interest in Disney per se.
Yeah.
The reason I bought Kingdom Hearts is just because I'm fascinated by the idea of it. I'm fascinated by it on a meta level. Like, how did this thing come into existence? how did such a tightly controlled brand let this thing out into the world?
You know what?
And that's what appeals to it about me.
I think that if we took out Kingdom Hearts 3 out of this podcast, it would be 15 minutes long.
Yeah, this has become a pretty long episode that we were supposed to end like half an hour ago.
And it's mostly Kingdom Hearts related.
Yeah, so the Kingdom Hearts fans are going to love this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
'cause
We'll hear all of the good things from Kingdom Hearts fans.
we don't actually get much podcast feedback. Like, nobody's sent me an angry email about this podcast yet.
You know, there's
Give me
free
5
time for-
seconds and a couple hot takes, and I can change that. Mario is overrated, and Breath of the Wild is the worst game ever. There you
I
go.
hate Sonic. I hate Sonic. There you go.
Oh, that doesn't count. Literally, this podcast has mocked Sonic in almost every single episode.
Damn it, you're right.
Oh,
Halo
also,
is
here it
overrated. I don't like Halo.
Nice. Oh, also going on Sonic.
Randy Pitchford is actually my best friend.
Oh, wow, man. I don't know about that. It's just, I'm going
Like,
to...
if Randy Pitchford were here, I'd give him a big old bear hug.
Oh, no. I'm definitely not a part of this podcast anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pro Randy Pitchford podcast.
Oh, no. What have I gotten myself into?
And I think on that note, we're going to call this episode to a close, unless there's anything else people want to mention about Kingdom Hearts, changing game tastes, or the Anthem demo, which we talked about like an hour ago.
Yeah,
Let's talk about Kingdom Hearts a little bit more.
I do think it's
Oh,
worth
yeah, let's just...
pointing out that we initially planned for the Anthem demo discussion to be like 10 minutes long. which I don't think is a problem that we went over time.
No, it's fine. We were told to keep this rolling even after the time limit. Our editor was cool with us just continuing to blog about shit.
Just talk about Kingdom Hearts some more. I'm going away. I'm going away, and I'm not going back.
I don't want to talk about Kingdom Hearts anymore. We talked about this shit way too much. But I will say, if you like to keep up to date with the podcast, we do have a website. It's avocadogamescast.wordpress.com. We post each episode. We have a link dump that fact checks all of our blathering, has links to some cool videos and articles that are related to the stuff we talked about. So if it's like the further reading section at the end of like a Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
Except for imagine the Wikipedia article were written by 5 different people at the same time, and they all had different opinions, and they also all wanted to make fun of Sonic.
Oh, so it's a Wikipedia article.
And Kingdom Hearts.
Hey, I like it so far. I mean, I both love and hate
Yeah.
it. So
That's Kingdom Hearts for you.
That's Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts.
you like it and you hate it, and you like yourself for
Kingdom
hating it, and you
Hearts.
hate yourself for liking it.
Do you think
that's
we
kinda what it
we
is.
say Kingdom Hearts a couple of more times, and we will be in some sort of Guinness World Record for
If you
saying
say-
world?
If you
If you say Kingdom Hearts 3 times backwards in a mirror, I've heard that Goofy will appear behind you and start talking about the Heartless and Xehanort.
I wish Goofy appeared behind
Organization
me.
13.
you know
It's
on
Organization 13, gosh.
on that note, I would have loved Tony Todd to show up in Kingdom Hearts. I mean, they basically got like almost every major Disney actor for 3. Like I said, they got Tom Hanks's brother who voices Woody in all the spin-offs. They got Kristen Bell and Josh Gad, and there's a whole part where like Josh Gad has and Olaf the Snowman has a dramatic scene against the Heartless.
Okay, so I was going to say, wait, that's not possible. Tony Todd is dead, and then realized it's confusing with Michael Clark Duncan,
Yeah.
who actually is dead. My apologies.
All is forgiven.
Yeah. Sorry, Tony Todd, if you're listening to this. You're not dead. You're actually alive. Anyway, on that note, you can also subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play Music. Just search for Avocado Gamescast. And make sure you check out the community that spawned this podcast, The Avocado, at the-avocado.org. Don't actually type the word hyphen. I don't know why you would do that.
Also, we have regular games threads on Mondays and Thursdays. So if you want to come in while we're discussing games specifically, that would be a good time to do so.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, we're always looking for more people to talk about video games with. So if you want to talk about how much you love Kingdom Hearts or Randy Pitchford, please
Or Kingdom
feel
Hearts.
free to weigh in. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts and Randy Pitchford both.
Yeah.
And
Could you imagine if Gearbox made Kingdom Hearts? What do you think would happen?
it would be much less interesting.
They would steal a bunch of art from someone online.
That is, but it'd be just like it'd be like literal DeviantArt skins, just like on the character model.
Hell yeah.
Anyway.
Also, if you want to talk about whether Leon from Resident Evil's hair is good or great, that's a great opportunity too.
Yeah.
I would say probably better than Leon from Kingdom Hearts hair. What the fuck is going on with that guy's hair?
Did he say
Holy
Kingdom
shit.
Hearts? Somebody said Kingdom Hearts. I'm
I did say Kingdom Hearts because I'm playing Kingdom Hearts right now.
I do like that game.
And Leon's hair is fucking hilarious.
Who is Leon in Kingdom
Squall from
Hearts?
Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah,
Except for he's just like,
Oh,
call me
okay.
Leon in a
Oh,
really
shit.
gruff
Okay.
voice.
Yeah.
I forgot he had a
I'm
name.
like, fuck you, you're Squall. Shut
Oh,
up.
yeah. Okay.
I love how they made all the anime boys these enthusiastic anime boys, all these like brooding characters who carry darkness with them.
and they all wear trench coats that are so long that they're also raincoats.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is going on with the fashion in this game. They're all dressing like they're heavy metal singers from 1988.
All to sell stuff at Hot Topic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's also pretty on brand considering that Hot Topic also sells all those like edgy Disney T-shirts.
Like Goofy smoking weed.
Yeah.
Like off-color
Okay.
Goofy that I bought in the 90s in a shop somewhere.
Smoke all the weed you want, Goofy. We love you for it.
Yep.
Anyway, that's enough for today. Thank you for listening to all our blathering about, I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about for the last 10 minutes.
Kingdom Hearts.
Again.
You said it again.
You might say, Merve, it was our Kingdom Hearts final remix.
That's barely even a pun. That's not even a pun.
25/7.
I don't even know what the fuck any of you guys are talking about now. So let's hang it up, folks. Yeah. This is great, but we can't talk about Kingdom Hearts anymore, or we'll have an angry horde of Heartless on us.
Yep, and Goofy. That guy is a monster.
And Goofy. Yeah, he fucking has a dog. I don't get it. He's a dog who owns a dog. I don't understand Disney.
Goofy's
it's giving
a dog?
me heart palpitations.
Yeah. No,
Goofy's a dog who owns Pluto, who's also a dog.
He's a dog.
It's a fucking dog who owns a dog. I don't understand this world.
No, Mickey owns the dog.
Mickey owns a dog?
His
but
best
Goofy's
friend is a
friends
dog,
with Pluto.
so...
Yeah. I mean, it's
I don't get this.
no less weird than Hello Kitty owning a cat.
Guys, do you want to talk
Hello
about
Kitty
Kingdom
owns a
Hearts?
cat? Oh god. Okay. Anime makes no sense. Disney makes no sense. None of this makes any sense.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being on this podcast, and thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Take care, all.
That was Donald Duck
That's good.
saying bye-bye.
That's good, Donald.
We
That's
hope to
good,
see
Donald.
you for the next episode.
Gorge!